In this video, I'll give you a full tutorial on how to build a B2B SaaS application that includes organizations, multiple team members, billing, subscriptions, permissions, roles, and everything you would need to create a SaaS app. We're going to be doing this using Python, specifically with FastAPI for the backend, and then with React and JavaScript for the front end. We're also going to be using Clerk for handling all of the complex billing and organization related features, as well as the authentication, like signing in, signing out, etc. This will be a long project with a lot of coding, so for that reason I've included all of the code that's written in this video linked in the description. You can find a GitHub repository in case you need to copy anything or you prefer to follow along that way. Also worth noting that this video is not designed for beginners. While I will explain to you everything that I'm doing and the reason for the decisions that I have, I'm not going to be going over the fundamentals of the frameworks or the language, so I won't be teaching you FastAPI or teaching you React. This is more about how you assemble all of the things you know into a large, complex project that will act as a really solid base if you wanted to build something like a B2B SaaS. Anyways, with that in mind, that's all I had to go through in the intro. What I'm going to do now is give you a quick demo of the project, and then we'll get into coding it. So let's get started. All right, so let's get started here with a quick demo of the finished application. Now we're going to be building a team-based task board. So think of it something like Notion or Asana, obviously with some simplified features. So you can see I have a simple kind of landing page here, and I have the ability to view the pricing, which requires me to sign in or sign up. So what I'll do now is I'll sign in. You'll notice that what we're using to sign into this is Clerk. Now, Clerk has kindly sponsored this video, but they are completely free. You do not need to pay to use them, and they're the easiest way to set up authentication, as well as things like organization, billing, all of that stuff that you're going to see in this video, which is precisely why I partnered with them and why we're going to use them. So you can see it gives me a nice email address field here. Let me sign in, and then I'll be right back and show you what the app looks like. Okay, so I was able to sign in here, and you'll notice right away that the first thing I see is the current organization that I'm inside of. So I have this new org test. I also have this hello world organization, and I have the ability to create another new organization by simply pressing this button right here. Now, if I go to my dashboard, you'll notice it's going to start loading my different tasks. Right now, we don't have any. Shows me we have 2 members in this organization. If I want to make a new task, I can go like test, this or something, put it in the to-do category, and you can see that it's here. And then if I want to change its category, I can simply just swap it, and you see that it moves right over. Now, the interesting thing is that if I change over to my Hello World organization, you'll notice that I now see some different tasks popping up in this board because the tasks that I have are defined per organization. Now, what I can also do is click on the pricing. You'll see that we have some pricing tiers here. So we have a free tier, and then we have a pro tier. And the way that I've set this up is that if you want to have more than 2 members in your organization, you can use the pro tier, which I just put out $1 per month, but you could set this to any price that you want. And if you have less than that, so 2 or less members, then you can use the free tier. Now, the way that you manage the members is you go to manage within inside of your organization. You go to members, and you can see the various members that appear here, and you can set the roles for those members. So for example, you can make them an editor, a member, an admin. I'll talk about all of that in this video, but you can see that this really is kind of like a B2B SaaS setup where you have billing, you have members, you have organizations, you have subscriptions, right? $1 per month. We have kind of data that is shared between different teams. We have different roles for members. That's what I'm trying to show you in this video. With that said, let's hop over to the code editor, start writing some code and building this project. So I'm inside my code editor here, and what I've done is I've just opened a new folder called B2B SaaS on my desktop. So open any folder in any code editor that you want, and you'll notice that for this video, I'm going to be using PyCharm. Now, like I said, you can use whatever you like, but typically I recommend PyCharm for large Python-based applications. In this case, a lot of the work is going to be in FastAPI. PyCharm is specifically designed for working with frameworks like that, gives us really good type hints as well as recommendations, has a lot of great features, so I would recommend using it. Now, if you do want to use PyCharm and you want to access their pro subscription, try it for free and see if you like it. You can do that from the link in the description. I do actually have a long-term partnership with them, so again, if you click that link below, you'll be able to test it out and use it completely for free and see if you like it. Anyways, with that said, let's get into the setup here. What I'm going to start doing is setting up 2 folders, one for my backend and one for my front end. So I'm going to open up my terminal here. I'm going to go into my B2B SaaS application, and I'm just going to make one folder here. So let's go new folder. Let's simply call that backend. Then let's make another folder, or actually we'll do that just from the command line, that will be our front end. So let's create our front end. In order to do that, you're going to need Node.js installed on your computer. So make sure you have that installed because we're going to be using React. And we're going to type npm create vite at latest like that. And then we're just going to simply put front end. Now, when we do that, it should create a React application for us if we select the correct framework. So I'm going to select React here. I'm just going to use JavaScript. I'm not going to use TypeScript for this particular project, but you could if you want to. I'm going to go no for roll down Vite, and I'm going to say install with npm and start now. Yes, and it's going to start installing and creating this front end folder for me. So this is the setup for the front end. Then we're going to set up the back end. We're actually going to write the entire back end first. We're going to understand the architecture of our application, and then we're going to start building the front end, the UI, and kind of connecting all of the pieces together. Okay, so you can see our front end is running. If I click on it, this is kind of the default dummy front end that you get when you create the React application. I'm just going to shut this down by hitting Control-C. I'm going to cd into my backend directory, and I'm going to start setting up the code that I need here. So for this project, I'm going to use UV. So I'm going to type UV init and then dot to create a new UV project inside of this backend directory. You can see when I do that, it creates 5 files here. We can delete this main file because we don't need this one for right now. Now, if you're unfamiliar with UV, I'll leave a video on screen that explains how it works, but essentially it's a better version of pip. You can install it and then you can just use the UV command like I am here. All right, so for our particular backend project here, we're going to need a few different Python backend frameworks, right, or Python modules. So what we're going to do is type UV add, and we're going to add the FastAPI module because, of course, we're using FastAPI for our backend API. We're going to install Uvicorn. This is the web server that will run our backend API. We're going to install SQL Alchemy. This is what's going to be used for connecting to the database. Then we're going to use python.env. This is for loading environment variable kind of configurations. Then we're going to use PyJWT. This is for verifying JWT tokens. We're going to bring in the Clerk Backend API. This is the Python package for Clerk that allows us to use Clerk on the backend for handling all of our authentication. We'll talk more about that later. And we're going to bring in SVIX. This is what we're going to use to actually validate a webhook that we're going to get from Clerk later on. But for now, let's install all of those. Okay, so you're going to see that that then creates the virtual environment for us, installs everything. We get this .venv folder, and now we're good to go and start setting up our backend. So what I'm going to do to begin, so I'm going to make a new file, and I'm going to call this .env. This is where we're going to put some environment variables that we need for the project. Now for the .env file, I'm just going to put in the variables and then we'll grab the values that we need later. So first things first, we're going to type clerk underscore secret underscore key. We're then going to type clerk underscore publishable underscore key. Then we're going to type clerk underscore JWKS underscore URL. Then we're going to have the database underscore URL, which we can actually fill in right now. And for the database, we're going to use a local SQLite database, but you could use anything that you want. So I'm going to type SQLite like that, and then colon 3// ./ and then taskboard.db, which is going to create a database called taskboard for us, where we store all of the information. We then are going to have the frontend underscore URL, and we're going to make this equal to http:// localhost and then port 5173, which is where our React application is going to run. And we're going to have the clerk underscore webhook underscore secret, and we're actually going to put this up top because that is one of the clerk values, so we might as well just keep them all together. Okay, so we're going to look at all these values later on, but like I mentioned, for all of the authentication, all of the login, all of the organization, billing, subscriptions, we're going to use a free framework or a free tool, I guess, called Clerk. Okay, so that's why I'm putting in the variables here. We're going to create that Clerk account in 1 minute after I start stubbing the API, and then you'll see why we're using this and why we need these particular values. Sorry. Okay. So for our API, what I want to start by doing is just creating the different directories and files that we're going to need so that we can start to kind of understand the architecture and how things are going to be set up. Then after that, we'll start actually writing the code and going into the individual files. So for now, inside of our backend folder, we're going to make a new file and we're going to call this start.py. This is going to be the entry point for our application, the file that we run to effectively run the app. We're then going to make a folder here, so new directory called app, and this is where all of the code for our application is going to live. Now inside of app, we're going to make a few new folders. So we're going to have one folder, and this is going to be called API. This is for all of the API routes. We're then going to have another folder. This is going to be called core for the core functionality, essentially. Another new directory. This is going to be called models for our database models. And then another directory, and this is going to be schemas. Now the schemas are going to be used to essentially validate data. Then inside of the app directory, we're going to make a new file. This file is going to be called main.py. Okay, and then we'll just go ahead and press cancel there. So what we have now is app. We have 4 folders: API, core, models, schema. We have our main.py, and now what we're going to do is start writing the different files that are going to go inside of these folders. Now I'm not going to write all of the code, but we're just going to write the file names so that at least we know what we're going to have and how the app is kind of going to be structured. So from API, we're going to make a new Python file, and this is going to be tasks.py for handling all of the API routes related to our tasks. We're then going to make another new file, and this one is going to be called webhooks.py. Later we'll discuss what a webhook is, but essentially this is going to be for all of the endpoints to receive data from Clerk, so that when some event happens, like we create a new organization or we subscribe to a particular billing plan, we can get that information and handle it inside of our app. We're then going to have core. So inside of core, we're going to make a few new files. So here we're going to have a file called auth.py for handling authentication. We're going to have another new file. This is going to be called clerk.py. Okay, there's going to be a lot of files. Just bear with me, and then we'll start actually writing them out. We're going to have another one called config.py for all of the settings for our application. And we're going to have another one called database.py for, you guessed it, handling the database. Now we're going to go inside of models. For our database models, these are going to be pretty easy. We're just going to have one called task.py, and then we'll write the model directly inside of there. And then for our schema, same thing. We're going to make a new file, and this is going to be called task.py. Okay, so quickly pause the video, have a look at all of the files that we've created, make sure that your app looks the same, and this is just going to make your life easier, as we continue, that all of the files are already created. Okay. So now that all of those files are created, we're going to start grabbing some of the credentials that we need to store inside of this .environment variable file. Okay, so we're going to go to our browser, and I'm going to quickly explain to you why we're using Clerk and how to create an account here. So like I said, Clerk allows you to essentially manage all of the users, authentication, organizations, billing, subscription, etc. for your application. So it has pre-built components like the ones you saw right here for things like sign up, sign in, user button, user profile, all of the ones that you actually already saw in the app that I demoed to you. Things like switching the organization, creating the organization, looking at a profile of the organization. So it just makes our life as a developer significantly easier. And again, the best part is this is free and it's actually very widely used. You've probably seen these UIs in a lot of applications and large SaaSes. Okay, so in order to use Clerk, what we need to do is just create a free account here. I'll leave a link in the description where you can make that account. Once you do that, simply go to your dashboard and we're going to create a new Clerk project. So if you just go into your workspace, you go here and you just go create application. It will allow you to give the application a name. So in this case, I'm just going to call this, B2B Task Manager or something, or let's just go like SaaS Task Manager maybe. Okay, and you'll notice that you can enable or disable a ton of different sign-in methods. So I'm just going to leave email for now, but you could enable Google sign-in, Facebook sign-in. You could enable, all of these sign-ins at once, right? And this is the benefit of using Clerk, is that if you ever want to change the authentication methods, you just directly do it from this nice UI. You don't have to do a ton of setup. It's very easy to do it. So even like you can sign in with Notion. Okay, so we're going to go with just email for now. We're going to press on create application, and this is going to make a new Clerk app for us. Now, there's going to be a lot of instructions here that explain to you how to add this to your front end. We will do that later when we start setting up the front end. But for now, what we're going to do is go to this configure button and start grabbing some of the keys that we need for our environment variable file. And you'll also notice that there's a ton of settings here that you can mess with and play with. For now, we'll just leave it as it is. Okay, so we're going to go down here to where it says API keys from the settings, and we're going to grab a few of the keys that are here. So first one is the publishable key, otherwise known as the public key. We're just going to copy that, and we're going to put that into our environment variable file where it says publishable key. So let's paste that. The next one is the secret key, so I'm just going to copy that, and same thing, I'm going to paste that into the Clerk secret key variable. We then need the JWKS URL. We're going to find that from the right-hand side here where it says JWKS URL. Same thing, we're going to copy that, and just paste that right there. And then lastly, we have the Clerk webhook secret. We're not going to have that right now, so we'll just put an equal sign and we'll fill that value in later when we get to the webhook. Okay, so now we have the values that we need in our environment variable file. Again, we'll go back to Clerk later on, but for now, we're going to start filling in some of the Python files that you see here. So for now, where we'll start is inside of this core folder. We're going to go into config.py, and we're going to start writing the code to load in essentially all of the settings that we need for this app. So we're going to start by saying import OS. We're then going to say from.env import load _.env. I'm just going to configure my interpreter here so we don't get those errors. Okay, so now we're going to type load.env. What this is going to do is load this .environment variable file for us so we can access some of the values inside of it. We're then going to create a class called config. This is standard in FastAPI to store all of your settings and variables in one class. And we're simply going to write a mapping from our environment variable files or variables, sorry, to variables inside of the class. So we're going to say clerk _secret key. We're going to say this is of type string is equal to os.getEnv. And then this is going to be the clerk secret key or an empty string if for some reason that doesn't exist. Next, we're going to get the clerk publishable key. So we're going to say clerk, if we can type this in capitals, _publishable, okay, _key. And then this is of type string in lowercase, and this is going to be equal to os.getEnv and then the clerk publishable key, and again, an empty string. We then are going to have the clerk _webhook _secret, and this is going to be a string, which is equal to the os.getEnv and then the clerk webhook secret, and again, empty string. We then are going to have the clerk _jwks _URL. Same thing, string is equal to os.getEnv, same variable clerk jwks _URL. We then are going to have the database _URL, which is a string, same thing, equal to os.getEnv database URL. We then have the frontend URL, so frontend _URL, string is equal to os.getEnv frontend URL. And then we're going to have two variables that we're going to define ourselves. The first is going to be the free tier _membership _limit. This time it's going to be an int, which is equal to 2. And then we're going to have the pro _tier _membership _limit, which is going to be equal to 0, which stands for unlimited. Now what I'm doing is just putting two values here that we'll need to use later to essentially define, okay, how many members can you have in a free plan? How many can you have in a pro plan? That is stored in here and we're not hard coding it multiple places in our app. We're then going to go and say settings is equal to config like that, so that we have access to all of effectively the settings for our application. Okay, so that is it for the config.py file. Now we're going to go and just write the database connection. So from database, we're going to say from SQL Alchemy import create engine. We're going to say from SQL Alchemy, and then this is going to be .orm import the session maker and the declarative base. We're then going to say from app.core.config, we're going to import the settings like so, okay? We're then going to continue and we're going to say engine is equal to create _engine, and we're going to say settings dot, and this is going to be the database _URL is going to be essentially how we're creating the database or what the URL is we're using for that particular database. And then we're going to say the connect _arguments is equal to a dictionary, and we're going to say check same thread, and that is equal to false. I'm not going to explain this too much in depth. We're just going to make sure that we're able to run the database successfully and we don't have any problem with it running inside of the same thread as something else. We're then going to say session local is equal to the session maker, and we're going to say auto commit is equal to false. We're going to say auto flush is equal to false as well, and we're going to bind this to our engine. Now I know a lot of this will look a little bit confusing, but this is very standard when working with FastAPI to be able to connect to a SQLite database. We're then going to say base is equal to declarative base, and what we're going to do is say define get database, and we're going to say database is equal to session local. When we call this, it's essentially going to bind to the database engine. It's going to create the database if it doesn't already exist. And if it does exist, it's simply just going to yield it to us. We're then going to say try, and we're going to say like this, yield, and we got to spell yield correctly, the database, and we're going to say finally. So why is this not working? Like this, finally, we are going to say db.close. Okay, so this is all we need for the database. What this is doing is essentially just creating a database session, and then we have this function where when we want to access the database, we just call it, it yields the database to us, and if there's any issues, then it just closes the database and makes sure that it saves successfully. Okay, so let's continue here, and let's now go into the clerk.py file, and let's write this to connect to Clerk. This is super straightforward. What we're going to do is say from Clerk _backend _API, import Clerk, and we're then going to say from app.core.config, okay, if we spell that correctly, import settings, and then we're going to say Clerk is equal to Clerk, and we're going to say the bearer _auth is equal to settings.clerk. Okay, let me just spell this correctly, clerk _secret _key. Now, the reason why we need to set up some stuff related to Clerk here in the backend is that Clerk is going to handle all of our authentication automatically for us in the front end. Essentially, we can just bring in a Clerk component, and it will allow the user to sign in, sign out, handle the organizations, and it will just do all of the auth. However, we only want authenticated users to be able to send requests to our Python backend, because our backend is going to handle things like creating the tasks, setting where the tasks are, maybe deleting a task. So what we want to do is ensure that only users that have the right permissions to handle those tasks are able to do so. So what we're going to do is from our front end, we're going to include the Clerk user data to a request to our backend. And our backend is going to verify that this user is who they say they are by using this Clerk package. So essentially, we're going to go to Clerk and we're going to say, hey, Clerk, is this actually one of the users who signed into our app? Clerk is going to say yes or no. And then based on that information, we can kind of gate what that user is able to do in our backend application. It'll make more sense later on, but that's kind of the basics of why we're setting up Clerk like we are. So with that in mind, let's actually go back to Clerk, and I'm going to start setting up some of the things that we need in order to make this authentication work. So from Clerk, we're going to go to organizations here, and we're going to go to settings. Now what we're going to do is enable organizations for our app. We're going to turn off allow personal accounts and just enable this. Now, effectively, what we're doing here when we enable organizations is we're allowing users to create organizations and invite other members to them. This is very common in something like a B2B software as a service, where one person creates the org, they invite different members, and maybe you pay per member, right? Or you have like a certain number of seats and you upgrade to another plan to unlock more seats. Clerk allows you to do that, and that's kind of what we're enabling right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the limited membership to 2 right now, and make that saved. The reason for that is that I want to limit any new organizations or free organizations to just have 2 members and then force them to pay to upgrade their organization in order to have unlimited seats, okay? Now we can scroll down here. There's a few other things that we can set. For example, the default role for new members, the creator's initial role in the organization, allow members to delete organizations, right? There's a bunch of stuff that we can do here. And for now, we'll kind of leave it as is. We also could turn off allow user created organization so that you had to manually create an organization yourself as the app creator or admin in order for someone to join that org. All right, so next thing though, we're going to go to roles and permissions. Within organizations, you can have various different roles, right? Viewer, editor, admin, content manager, sales manager. You've probably seen that before if you've used any kind of SaaS. So notice that we have admin currently, right? And we can just kind of describe what the admin can do. We have member, right? And then we can create our own role. So for this particular app, because we're going to have kind of this task board, I want to create a new role here called editor. So I'm going to give this role editor, see the key is editor. I'm going to say a user who can edit tasks. Cool. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save that. Now with this role, we can just check if a user is admin, editor, or member, but we can even get more specific and we can add particular permissions per each role. So what I can do here is go to features. From features, I can press add feature. This particular feature I'm going to call is task, okay, or let's call it tasks actually. And I'm going to say task in the task board. And what I'm going to do is start setting some permissions that I want to be able to set for particular users. So I'm going to go create permission. For the first permission, let's call this create. We're going to say can create tasks, and we're going to go ahead and create that. And you can see this one permission has now been created. Let's make another one. We're going to call it delete, can delete tasks. Let's make another one. Let's call this view, can view tasks. Okay, and let's make another one and call it edit, and say can edit tasks. Okay, so now we have 4 permissions: create, delete, view, and edit. Those are within the feature of tasks. We're going to go ahead and save that, go out of here, and you'll see now that we have this tasks feature created. So now if we go back to our organizations, we go to roles and permissions, we can go to the admin, for example, and you'll see the permissions are now appearing. And we can enable all of them for the admin. Okay, let's go ahead and save that. Now let's go back to the editor. Same thing for the editor. Let's allow them to do all of this. Okay, so save. And for the member, let's just allow them to view. So they cannot edit, delete, or create, but they can view the tasks in the taskbar. Cool. So there you go. We just added a few different roles. We set up the permissions here, and now we can start using these directly from our code whenever someone signs in with their Clerk account, so we know what permissions they actually have access to. However, before we do that, I want to start setting up the billing and the subscription as well while we're on this page. So I'm going to go to billing, and I'm going to go to settings. Now from here, what I'm going to do is enable organization billing and press on save. Now when I do that, it's going to give me a few other settings, like allow me to connect my Stripe account or to directly use the Clerk payment gateway. Now, if you were in production, this would become more important. For now, because we're just testing and development, it doesn't really matter which one you use here, and we'll be able to just test with kind of like a fake credit card, which you'll see in a second when we talk about these kind of different plans and upgrading to Pro and all of that kind of stuff. Now, what you also see here is that it shows me plans. So it says create plan. I can also just go to subscription plans here, and I can start creating various different plans for organizations or for individual users. So what I'm going to do for now is I'm going to create a new organization plan. I'm going to call this Pro tier, like that. And I'm just going to write a description and say unlimited seats in the organization. Okay, like that. And then for the fee, I'll just make it $1. You can make it literally anything that you want. You could enable a free trial, make it publicly available, add various features to this particular plan. For example, you could add, the tasks feature. So maybe you can actually unlock different features with different plans. In my case, I'm not doing that, but maybe we have some, AI features, something that you only get access to if you're in the Pro plan. Then you could make that a feature, enable it directly in Clerk, and then have it actually one of the things associated with this plan, and your code can then check that and see if the user or the organization has that particular feature. This is super powerful, that's why I'm using it, but you can see for now I just created this new plan. Now we have the free plan, and the Pro tier plan, and later I'll show you how we can display that. And notice it's actually kind of showing it to us already by using this pricing table component in React and using this method and kind of protect to protect certain features based on what plan the organization or the user has. Okay, so that's pretty much all I wanted to do for now. I will quickly mention to you that everything you see inside of Clerk, you can customize, you can change, there's all kinds of other stuff you can look at here. For now, though, we'll leave this as is, and we're going to go back to our code, and we're going to start writing this auth module, which now hopefully should make a little bit more sense because we just enabled those kind of permissions inside of Clerk. All right, so what we're going to do for our auth here is we're going to start by importing HTTPX. We're then going to say from FastAPI, import depends, HTTP exception, if we can spell exception correctly, request, okay, and status. We're then going to say from the Clerk backend API dot security, import the authentication request options. We're then going to say from app.core.config, import settings. And we're going to say from app.core.clerk, import clerk. Okay? All right, so now we have the imports that we need. And in this particular file, we're going to handle all of the authentication and essentially understanding if a particular user has the ability to edit a task, delete a task, etc. Now, effectively, what's going to happen is when someone signs into our front end, like I mentioned, they're going to be using Clerk. From our front end, we're going to include the user's Clerk account details, which includes a JWT token, which is essentially their identity as the user in our app, and it's going to be sent to our backend. So front end is going to send request to the backend, okay? And this is going to include a JWT token from Clerk. Now, what we're going to do on the backend is the backend is going to authenticate this token. When we do that, we're going to get the user details from Clerk and check the user's permissions. Okay, so this is effectively what this file is going to do. We're receiving a request from the front end that includes some details about the signed in user. Our backend is going to authenticate these details are valid. We're going to get the details from Clerk about this particular user, and we're going to check their permissions to see, okay, are they a member? Are they an editor? Are they an admin? What do they actually have the ability to do? So I'm going to make a class here called auth user. Inside of here, I'm going to say define __ init, and I'm going to take in self, a user _ ID, which is a string, an org ID, which is also a string, and org _ permissions like this, which is a list. Then what I'm going to do is say self.user_ID is user ID, self.org ID is org ID, and self.org permissions, let's spell this correctly, are org permissions. Then I'm going to say define has _ permission. We're going to take in self and then a permission, which is a string, and we're going to return a Boolean. We're then going to say return permission in self.org permissions. Now, this is simply just going to check if this user has a particular permission inside of this permissions list. That's because whenever we check the user in Clerk, it's going to give us a list of permissions that user has. Those permissions are going to include the ones that we just created, like can they edit a task, can they delete a task, etc. So we're going to check those essentially, and if we have them, then we're going to tell the backend or whatever function, okay, yes, they can actually do that particular task. So now I'm going to create a few properties. So I'm going to say app property, define can _ view. Okay, this is going to take in self, it's going to return a Boolean, and we're going to return self.hasPermission, and then we're going to say org : tasks : view. So the way that the permissions are set up inside of Clerk is that the particular permission that we created, so like view, create, delete, edit, is associated with some feature. In this case, the feature is tasks, and that feature is associated with an organization. So we're saying org tasks view. We're checking in this particular organization, in the tasks feature, do we have the view permission? So I'm going to copy this now, this method, and we're going to write it for all of the different properties that we have. So as well as can view, we're going to have can create, and we just change this to create. Same thing for can delete, change this to delete. And then what is the last one that we have? So we have view, create, delete, and then we're going to have edit, and then simply change this to edit. And that's it. We now have these 4 different properties in this class, and I can use this auth class to determine if a user has a particular permission. Okay, so now we're going to write a few functions that essentially takes the data that our front end sends to the back end and sends it to Clerk to validate this data and make sure the user's who they say they are. So we're going to write a function called convert _to _httpx _request. Okay, now inside of here, what we're going to do is have a FastAPI _request, which is of type request, and this is going to return an httpx.request. Now inside of this function, I'm going to go return httpx.request, and I'm going to have the method, which is equal to FastAPI request.method. I want to have the URL, which is equal to FastAPI request.url, and we're just going to convert this into a string. And we're going to have headers, which is equal to a dictionary, and this is going to be the FastAPI request.headers. Now, effectively, all we're doing here is we're just taking the FastAPI request object, and we're converting this into an HTTPX request object, just a different request object that's going to be used directly with the Clerk module. Now we're going to have another function. This is going to be async define, and this is going to be get _current _user. This is going to take in a request, which is a FastAPI request, and it's going to return an authenticated user. Okay, and let's spell request correctly here. Awesome. So from this function, what we're going to do is we're going to say HTTPX underscore request is equal to convert to HTTPX request, and then we're going to pass this FastAPI request. So we just take the request, convert it into this HTTPX one. We're then going to say the request underscore state is equal to clerk dot authenticate request, and we're going to pass the HTTP request, okay, as well as the authenticate request options, and we're going to say the authorized parties is equal to, and this is going to be settings dot frontend underscore URL. All right, so effectively what this is saying is, okay, get the data from this HTTP request, authenticate it with Clerk, and also just make sure that we're only going to authenticate ones that come from our front end URL. We're then going to say if not, request underscore state dot is signed in. Okay, because what's going to happen now is this request state is going to give us a bunch of information about the user. What's their username? Are they signed in? Are they signed out? Have they created an account, etc., etc.? So if they're not signed in, then we're going to raise an HTTP exception, and we're going to say the status underscore code is equal to status.http underscore 401 underscore unauthorized, and we're going to say detail is equal to not authenticated. Okay, so that's going to check if the particular user is signed in. Then we're going to say claims are equal to request underscore state dot payload. We're going to say the user ID is equal to claims dot get and then sub. Now, what's going to happen effectively is that when Clerk authenticates this request, right, and it kind of pulls out the information from this JWT token, it's going to include something called a payload. Now, in the payload, we're going to have some information like the sub, which is actually the user's ID in Clerk, as well as the organization ID that they're inside of, and things like their permissions. So we're going to get that information so we can then use that from our backend. So we're going to say the org ID is equal to claims.get and then org underscore ID. We're going to say, let's get out of this parenthesis here. Okay, go back. That the org underscore permissions are equal to claims.get, and we're going to get permissions, or we're going to get claims.get and then org underscore permissions, or this, because it could be stored under permissions, org permissions, or if we don't have either of those, then we're just going to have an empty list because we have no permissions. We're then going to say if not user underscore ID, then same thing, we're just going to raise this error, because if we don't have a user ID, that means there's some error and the user's probably not signed in. We're also going to say if not, and this is going to be org ID. So if they're not a part of some kind of organization, then what we're going to do is we're going to return a 400. So we're going to say 400 bad request, and we're going to say no organization selected. Okay, because they need to select some particular organization, sorry. And then if all of that is good, we're going to return an auth user, and we're going to pass to the auth user the user ID, which is equal to the user ID, the org ID, which is equal to the org ID, and the org underscore permissions, which is equal to the org permissions. So effectively, we're saying this function will get us the current user from Clerk. We're going to convert the request. We're going to authenticate it with Clerk. We're going to check if they're signed in. If they are, we're going to get information like their user ID, the org ID, and the permissions they have. If for some reason they don't have that data, there's some kind of error, so we'll return that. Otherwise, we'll return the authorized user. Now, just from this file, we're going to create a few more functions as well, which are going to act as helper functions to essentially gate access to particular functionality. Bear with me, these are going to be pretty simple once we write the first one. The first one is going to be called require view. This is a function we're going to use to require the view permission from a particular user. So we're going to say user, and then this is going to be auth user equals depends, and then this is going to depend on the function get current user. Okay, we're not going to call the function, we're just going to write its name. We're then going to say this will return an auth user. And what we're going to do from here is we're going to say if not, and then user.can underscore view. Then we're going to raise an HTTP exception, and inside of here, we're going to have a status code, which is equal to status.http underscore 403, okay, underscore forbidden, saying you don't have this permission. We're then going to say detail, and we're going to say the view permission required. Okay, pretty straightforward. Then down here, we're going to return the user. Now we're going to copy this function, and we're going to have this for every permission. So rather than now require view, we're going to have require create. We're going to change this to can create. We're then going to have create permission required. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing, except rather than require create, we're going to say require delete. We're going to change this to be delete. We're going to change this to say delete permission required. Okay, now let's go down here. Rather than require view, this is going to be require edit. We're going to change this to say can edit, and then same thing, edit permission required. Okay, that's all that we need. The reason why I'm writing these 4 functions is we're going to use these as what's called a dependency injection in a minute in FastAPI, so that if a user wants to, for example, create a new task, we just call this function. It will then get the current user and see if the user is actually able to create the task or not. That's why we have that inside of this auth file. So I know that was kind of complicated, that was a lot of code, but now we've handled the core work for our API, and we're going to start working on the database, then we'll write the backend API routes, and then we're done with the API, we can test it, and then we can move on to the front end. So let's close all of this for now. Again, we have kind of the auth stuff handled, which is the most complicated, and what we're going to do is start writing our database models. So the only database model that we're going to have here is simply to represent a task, right? And a task can be in different stages, so like pending, started, completed. That's kind of how we'll set it up, but you can make this more complicated if you want. So from this task file inside of models, I'm going to define what a task looks like. So I'm going to import UUID, which will allow us to create a unique ID. I'm going to say from datetime import datetime. I'm then going to say from SQL Alchemy, okay, and then import column string text datetime and enum. And by the way, if you're getting lost here, all of this code will be available from the link in the description. I should have mentioned that earlier. Now let's continue. I'm going to say import enum, and I'm going to say from app.core.database import base. Okay, we're then going to say class task status, and this is going to be string comma enum dot enum, and we're just going to make a simple enum in Python. So we're going to have pending, which is equal to pending in lowercase. We're then going to have started, which is equal to started in lowercase, and we're going to have completed, okay, which is equal to completed in lowercase as well. So this is just the status for a particular task. You can have more, but we're just going to have pending, started, completed. Then we're going to have class task. This is going to inherit from base. And what we're going to do is just define the table name. So underscore underscore table name underscore underscore. Okay, and this is going to be equal to tasks. Then we're going to define all of the different data that's going to be stored on this task. So the first is going to be the ID. So we're going to have ID column. This is going to be string, primary key true, and then the default is going to be lambda, and then string uuid.uuid4. What this is going to do is just by default create a new unique ID for all of the tasks automatically for us. Next, we're going to have a title of the task. This is also going to be column. It's going to be of type string. Now we're going to put 255 to limit the length to 255 characters. And we're going to say nullable is equal to false, meaning this cannot be empty. We're then going to say description. This is going to be column. We'll just make it text because it can be long, but this time we're going to say nullable is equal to true because it can be empty. We're then going to say status is equal to column. This is going to be of type enum with the task status. The default is going to be task status.pending, and nullable is going to be false. This cannot be empty. Then we're going to have the org ID because every task needs to belong to some org. So we're going to say column string, and then we're going to say nullable is equal to false, and we're going to say index is equal to true so that we can look up values based on this column very quickly to find all of the tasks for a particular organization. We're then going to have created by, and this is going to be the user who created this. So this is going to be column, and then string, and then nullable is equal to false. We're then going to have created at, and this is going to be column, datetime, and we're going to say nullable is equal to false, or actually we don't need that. We're just going to say default. Okay, default is equal to datetime.utc now. And then we're going to have updated at, and this is going to be column, and same thing, datetime, and then default is going to be datetime.utc now. Okay, perfect. So what this is going to do is it is going to essentially just define the table schema for our task. So we have an ID, title, description, status, the org this task belongs to, who it was created by, when it was created at, and when it was updated at. That's all of the information that we need to store about any given task. Now that we have that, we're going to go into schemas, and we're going to write essentially the data validation for creating a task, updating a task, and getting a task so that we have the correct types in our FastAPI application. So what we're going to do is we're going to say from datetime, import datetime. We're going to say from Pydantic, import the base model. We're going to say from typing, import optional. Okay, and we're going to say from app.models.task, okay, the one we just created, imports the task status. Now what we're about to create, and let's go back to here, is something called schemas. Schemas are essentially Python classes that use Pydantic to help us validate information that gets sent to or returned from our API. So if someone wants to create a task, for example, they need to pass a title, a description, a status. That's what we're defining here, and then we'll use in just 1 minute. So we're going to say class task create. This is going to be the schema that's going to be used when someone wants to create a task. It's going to inherit from the base model. We're going to say title string. We're going to say description, and this is going to be optional. Okay, and then string. We're going to say status, and this is going to be task status, and then is equal to task status dot pending. Okay, so that's kind of the default when they create a task, is that it will go inside of pending. So now if a user wants to create a task, they need to pass this information effectively, which we'll use in a minute. Next, we're going to have the task update. Now this is going to be pretty much the same thing as the other one, except all of the fields are going to be optional. So we're going to say title, and then optional string, okay, is equal to none. Then we're going to say description, and same thing. This is an optional string is equal to none, and the status, okay, optional task status equal to none. So if you want to update the task, you can pass any or none of these different combinations of values, and we'll update based on the ones that you pass, right? Then we're going to have class task status update. Okay, so if this is just for updating the status, and we're going to take in the status and the task status like so. And then lastly, we're going to have the class task response. Now, the reason why we write a task response model or schema is because sometimes we don't want to include all of the information that's in our database when we return information about data in the database. So in this case, we're kind of writing a slim version of a task that will return to the front end that might hide any of the sensitive data that we don't want to return. So we're going to say ID int. We're going to say title string. We're going to say description, okay, and this is going to be optional string. We don't need to make this equal to none, just optional. Then we're going to say status is going to be the task status. We're going to say the org underscore ID is a string. We're going to say created underscore by is a string. We're going to say created at is a date time object. Let's go created and spell that correctly, by the way. And let's go updated at, updated underscore at, date time, and then we're going to say class config, and we're going to say from underscore attributes equals true, which means this will automatically create this response class based on the attributes of another class, which you will see in a minute. Okay, so that's the schema. Again, we're going to use this in a second where it will make a little bit more sense. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our tasks.py file inside of the API, and we're going to start using all of the code that we just wrote to define the endpoints, or kind of the routes of our API for the different operations related to our tasks. So we're going to say from FastAPI import the API router, the depends, the HTTP exception, and the status. We're then going to say from SQL Alchemy .orm import session. We're going to say from typing, import the list. We're going to say from app.core.database. Okay, we're going to import the get database. We're going to say from app.core.auth, import the get underscore current underscore user. We're going to import require view, require create, so all these functions that we wrote, require delete, and require edit. Okay, I know you can't see that, but I wrote require edit. All right, then we're going to say from app.models.task, import the task model. And we're going to say from app.schemas.task, import the task create, the task update, the task status update, and the task response. Okay, so that's all of our imports. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create our router. So we're going to say router is equal to API router. The prefix is going to be /API/tasks. And then we're going to say tags is equal to tasks. What we're effectively doing here is saying, okay, all of the endpoints I'm about to write here are going to be prefixed with API/tasks. So if I have an API here like /create, I would go to /API/task/create. And also let me just quickly fix this because this needs to be inside of a list for the tags. All right, so now we're going to say at router.get. We're going to put just an empty string for now, which means if you go to this exact route, what we're going to do is we're going to specify the response underscore model, which is going to be equal to a list of task response. And what we're going to do is return all of the tasks that are in the current user's organization. So we're going to say define, and this is going to be list underscore tasks. We're going to take in the user. So we're going to say user, auth user equals depends, and then require view. So what's going to happen now is we're saying, okay, and we need to make this a capital, sorry. We're going to depend on this require view function. So we're going to call the require view function. And if that doesn't give us back an authenticated user, it means we don't have the ability to actually view these tasks. So then we'll just raise an exception, right? If we do get the authenticated user, then we're good to go and we can view them. We're then going to say DB session is equal to depends and then get database. So we need the database as well as the permission to view in order to run this function. We're then going to say tasks is equal to db.query. We're going to query the task and we're going to say .filter. Then we're going to say task.org_id is equal to user.org_id. Okay, and then .all. So what this is going to do is it's just going to filter, and it's going to make sure that the user's organization ID matches the task's organization ID. If it does, then we will return those particular tasks because those are the tasks that this user is currently in the organization of. I think that makes sense why I said that, but hopefully you get the idea. Okay, next we're going to write something very similar, except this time it's going to be to create a task. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm just going to start changing some things. So rather than router.get, we're going to change this to router.post, which means you need to send a post request to this particular endpoint. Now, for this endpoint, we don't need to change it. We can actually just leave it as this, because if you send a get, we'll list the tasks. If you send a post, we will create the task. Now, rather than the response model being a list this time, it's just going to be one individual task. And similarly to before, we're going to take in the user, except this time it's going to be require create. We're going to take in the session because we need the database. But before that, we're also going to take in the task underscore data, which is going to be from task create schema that we wrote earlier. Now let's actually just clean up this function a little bit so it's easier to read. So let's put our dependencies on separate lines and then go like this and start writing the rest of the function. Okay. So similarly to before, again, we're getting the user, we're getting the database, but now this time we're taking in the data from this schema. Let's have a look at it, right? So we need the title, description, and status in order to create the task. What we're going to do now is just create the task. So we're going to say task is equal to task. We're going to say title is equal to the task data.title. We're going to say the description is equal to the task data.description. We're going to say the status is the task data.status. We're going to say the org ID is the user.org ID, and created by is going to be equal to, and this is the user.user_ID. Okay, so that now creates a task. And by the way, the reason why I don't need to check if any of these values exist is because FastAPI automatically does that for us by using that schema we created. So when I put this in here as a requirement for this endpoint, FastAPI checks, okay, this schema, did you pass all of this correct data? And if you didn't, it automatically returns an error message to the user. Okay, so let's continue here. We're now going to say db.add the task. So after you create the task, you need to add it to kind of the staging area for the database. We're then going to say db.commit. When we say db.commit, this is actually going to save it to the database. And then we can type db.refresh this task and return the task. And what refreshing does is it checks the database and kind of repopulates this object with any new values that were created. So for example, when I create this task here, I didn't set the ID for it. I didn't set the created at time or the update at time. But when I refresh here, because I added that to the database and the database will automatically make that for us, it adds those values back to this object, and then we can return it with all of the populated kind of hydrated values. Hopefully that makes sense. Now let's go and start writing a few more endpoints that we need. So the next one we need is going to be to get a particular task. So we're going to say router.get, and we're going to type slash and then task underscore ID because this is going to be a dynamic path. We're going to say the response underscore model is equal to the task response. We're then going to say define get underscore task. We're going to take in the task underscore ID, which is a string, which is going to match with what's in this path parameter right here. We're then going to take in the user, right, which is the auth user equals depends. And then this time it's going to be require view because we're viewing a particular task. And then same thing, db session, okay, autocomplete, come on, is equal to depend get database. And let's clean this up again like we did before so that we can read these values a little bit easier. Okay, and now let's start writing this function. So what we're going to do to get a particular task is we're going to say db.query task, okay, .filter, and we're going to filter the task.id is equal to task underscore ID, and the task.org ID is equal to the user.org ID to make sure that both these things match, because sure, you can know the task ID, but it needs to be the task that's in this particular organization. Now we do .first, which just gives us the first response if it exists. Now, if it doesn't exist, we're going to say if not task, then we can just return a 404. So we can say raise HTTP exception. Okay, now let's go back here. This is going to be status underscore code is equal to status.http underscore 404 not found. And then we can say detail is equal to task not found. And then if that's not the case, so if we did find the task, we can simply return it. Okay, and let's add a space there so we get rid of that highlight. Okay, so that is getting one particular task. Now let's go to updating a task. Okay, so to update a task, we're going to say at router.put, we're going to go slash, and then same thing, we're going to take the task ID and the response model will be the task response. I'm doing .put because that means we're updating if you send a put request, and we're going to call this define update underscore task. Now for the parameters, we're going to take in the task ID, which matches this. We're also going to take in the task data, which is going to be the task update schema. We're then going to have the user, right? And we're also going to have the database like so. Okay, so now that we have all of those, we're going to try to find the task, right? And we're also going to make sure, that we have the require edit permission. So let's make sure that it says require edit in the depends right there. Okay, so first things first, let's try to find the task. So let's just copy what we found here. The task needs to exist in order for us to edit it. So that's the first thing that we're doing. Now, similarly to before, we can actually just copy this right here and paste it, because if the task doesn't exist, well, we cannot edit it. Now, what we're going to do is say if the task underscore data dot title is not none, then what we're going to do is say task dot title is equal to task data dot title. Now we're going to do the exact same thing for the description. So we're going to say if the task data dot description is not none, then task dot description is equal to the task data dot description. And we're going to say if the task underscore status, okay, task data dot status is not none, then same thing, the task status will be equal to the task data dot status. So we're essentially checking the update data, saying, okay, well, if the update data is not none, then we will actually update this current task with that information. And then we can just type db.commit, which will save that information. We can then refresh this, right? from the database, we can refresh the task, and we can return the task, and that will be the update function. Now, the last function we need is simply to delete a task. So it's going to be very similar to what we did before. In fact, let's copy everything we have here. Let's come down. Let's paste that. Let's change this to router.delete. Let's make sure they have the required delete permission. We'll remove the task data. We don't need that. We'll try to find the task. We'll make sure the task exists. And if it does, we can just delete it. So db.delete task. And then we can say db.commit to save that in the database. And then we can just return none. And for the response model, we're just going to change this to actually remove it. And we're going to say status underscore code is equal to status.http underscore 204 underscore no content, because when you delete something, well, there's nothing really for us to return. So we're just returning none, right? Find the task, if it exists, delete it if we have the right permission to do that, and then we're good to go. Perfect. So that is it for the tasks API, okay? This allows us to get the task. I also realized that, sorry, this needs to be called create task, so it doesn't have the same function name as list task. But okay, get all the tasks, create a task, get one individual task, and then same thing here, delete a task. I forgot to change the name. And now we have pretty much all of the functionality that we need for handling the various different tasks. The last thing we need to do is essentially hook this up to actually start running the API, add kind of all of the configuration, and then we can test it. So let's quickly write that. So we're going to go to this main.py file now that we've written all of these individual files, and we're going to say from FastAPI, import with some capitalization, FastAPI. We're also going to say from FastAPI.middleware.cores, import the cores middleware. We're then going to say from app.core.config, import, and this is going to be settings. We're then going to say from app.core.database, import the engine and the base. And we're going to say from app.api, import tasks like that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to say base.metadata, okay, metadata.create underscore all, and we're going to say bind is equal to engine. What this is going to do is it's going to look for all of the different models that we've defined in our database and create them if they don't already exist in the database. We're then going to say app is equal to FastAPI. We're going to say the title of the app is equal to, and let's go taskboard API. We can give it a description. So we can just say, B2B taskboard app. Okay. And then we can go version, and we don't need to put this here, but I'm just going to put version 1.0.0. Okay. Then I'm going to say app dot, and this is going to be add underscore middleware. And I'm going to add the cores middleware. Now, CORS stands for cross-origin resource sharing. This is going to allow us to have the API be called from a different domain or a different resource, essentially, or origin, sorry. So I'm going to allow this to be called from our front end. So I'm going to say allow underscore origins equal to settings dot front end underscore URL to make sure our front end is able to actually call this. I'm then going to say allow credentials true so we can pass our authorization tokens. I'm going to say allow method star, so allow everything, and allow headers star to allow all of the various headers. Okay, I'm then going to say at app.include router, and I'm going to include the tasks.router, which is the API router that we just wrote here. So we're just connecting this to our main FastAPI application. And then I'm going to say, actually, I think that's it. That's all that we need from this particular file. Okay, now I'm going to quickly go to my start.py file because this is the entry point of my app. I'm going to import Uvicorn, and I'm going to say if underscore underscore name underscore underscore equals, and this is going to be underscore underscore main underscore underscore, then Uvicorn dot run, and I'm going to run like this, app dot main colon app. Okay, I'm going to say host is equal to 0.0.0.0, and port is equal to 8000, and reload is equal to true because we're doing this in debug mode. Now what this is going to do is it's going to look for this app folder, it's going to look for this main file, it's going to look inside the main file for an app called app, and it's going to run it using Unicorn. It's going to run it on localhost, which is this right here, on port 8000. So now we should be good to actually run the API and see if it works. So what we can do is make sure we're in the backend folder. We can type uv-run start.py, and we should see that the API starts running. If the API is running, that's good. However, it's giving me some errors saying no module named backend. So let me quickly check why I'm getting that. Okay, so I just had to make a fix here. Inside this file I had from backend.app.core.auth. I just need to change this to say from app.core.auth. But actually, I think that I should have just put this import up here. So auth user like that. So I'm just going to remove this from here, have the auth user imported from that. And now if I save this and run it, it looks like we're all good. The application is started up and we're no longer getting that error. So the API should be functioning. Now we're not able to really test this until we actually have a Clerk account and we've signed into our front end. Fortunately, that's pretty easy to do. So now what we'll do is we'll leave the back end running because pretty much all of the functionality is done. And we can start working on the front end where we actually sign in users, write the UI, and then send the requests to our backend where they're authenticated by Clerk. So we're now moving on to the front end. Now for the front end, we're going to change directories in our terminal into the front end directory. You'll see it looks something like this. What we're going to do from here is just install a few NPM packages that we need, specifically for Clerk, again, for handling all of the authentication, and then for React Router DOM for routing between different pages. So we're going to type npm I, and then this is going to be at clerk /clerk, and then -react. And then beside this, we're going to install react -router -dom. So let's go ahead and install that and wait for that to finish. Okay, so all of that has been installed. I'm now going to close the terminal and I'm going to go into my front end directory. Now for this project, I am not going to write all of the CSS completely from scratch because there is a ton of it and it's just a huge waste of time for me to do that on the video. Truthfully speaking, most of the CSS was just generated with AI anyways. So what I'm going to allow you guys to do is just download all of the CSS and just bring it into your project and then write all of the components manually if you want to follow along with me so that you don't have to go through all of this tedious, hundreds, actually probably close to 1,000 lines of CSS. So what I'm doing is I'm linking all of the code in the description via GitHub. If you go to that repo, you go to front end, you go to source, you go to styles, you'll see all of the styles are organized by pages. So badges, cards, Kanban, layout, all of this kind of stuff. So you can click into them and you can view all of the different CSS styles and just drag them right into your project, which is where I'm starting. All of the CSS is already here. Again, I'm not going to write any of it. It's just already inside of the project. Now, same thing with this index.css file. What I've done is I've just imported all of the individual styles from this styles folder inside of this index.css file. So just make sure you are aware of that. Now, what we're going to do now that we have all of the styles is we're going to actually start setting up the Clerk authentication. Then we're going to start writing all of the pages that we need. So for now, I'm just going to delete this assets folder because I don't need it. So let's get rid of this. Okay. And we're going to go back to Clerk. And I'm going to show you how we can set this up on the front end. All right, so from Clerk, we're going to go to Overview. We're going to select React, and it's going to show us here exactly how we can set up Clerk. So what we need to do is install the React package, which we already did, and we need to create a .env file where we put in this Clerk vite publishable key, or vite Clerk publishable key. So we're going to go back to our code. We're going to go inside of front end. We're going to make a new file called .env. And we're just going to paste this in here, vite Clerk publishable key. Okay, perfect. So we've got that in. Now let's go to the next step, and it's telling us that what we need to do is we need to import this inside of our main.tsx file where we have the Clerk publishable key. So let me copy these two variables right here, and let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we're going to go to main.jsx. Now from here, I'm just going to copy in these two variables, so the publishable key like that. And I'm just going to change a few things here because I need to essentially wrap my app in the Clerk provider component, but I also need to wrap it in my browser router so I can do the, kind of routing or page routing. So from here, I'm going to say import, and then this is going to be the Clerk provider, okay, from, and this is going to be at clerk /clerk-react. I'm then going to import the browser router from, and this is going to be React-router DOM. Okay, now for my app, I'm going to wrap this in the Clerk provider. For the Clerk provider, we're going to provide our publishable key, which is stored in the variable publishable key. Okay, and then we're going to put our app directly inside of here. Now around that, we're also going to wrap, let's just close this, the browser router. So we're going to say browser router like that. Okay, and again, inside of the browser router, we're going to put our app. Okay, so now we should be good from the main.jsx. So what we're doing is we're just wrapping the app in the Clerk provider and the browser router, so we get access to the Clerk settings or the Clerk configuration, as well as the React router DOM features. Okay, now what we're going to do is go inside of app.jsx. From here, we're just going to clear everything that is inside of this app component. We're also going to remove the import of app.css because I've deleted that. We're going to remove the imports of the React logo and the Vite logo, and even same thing with useState. We actually don't need that. And we're going to start setting this up to actually handle the routing for our application. Now, before I can do all of the routing, I do need to have the different pages that I will be routing to. So what I'm going to do is just stub those pages in my front end. So from source, I'm going to make a new folder. So let's go new directory like this, and we're going to call it pages. Now inside of pages, we're just going to create some empty pages that we can route to. So the first page we're going to have, so let's make a new file, is going to be the dashboard. Okay, and then page.jsx. Now for this, all we're going to do is we're just going to write a really simple component. So we're just going to say function dashboard like so, and actually this can be dashboard page, and then we're just going to return an empty fragment. Okay, and then we're going to say export default the dashboard page like so. Okay, now we can just copy that, and let's go to the next page. Now for the next page, this is going to be the home page. So let's just go homepage.jsx. Okay, and then we can just change this from dashboard page to say homepage, like so. Now let's have another page. So let's go new file. This is going to be the pricing page. So pricing page.jsx, same thing, just change this to say pricing and pricing, perfect. Now we have two more pages, I believe. We're going to have the sign in and the sign up page. So we're going to say sign up.jsx. Same thing, just change this to be the sign up page and the sign up page. And then let's go a new one, so new page, and this is going to be the sign in page.jsx. And from here, sign in like that, and sign in. Okay, so those are our 5 pages. Let me just close all of those. Now what we're going to do is go to app, and we're going to start setting up the router to route between these different pages, so once we write them, they're already showing up. So at the top of our file, we're going to say import, and then routes, and router, or sorry, not router, route from, and this is going to be React-router-DOM. Okay, that's the first import. Then we're going to say import signed in, signed out, and redirect to sign in from @clerk/clerk-react. This allows us to essentially gate pages so that if you're signed in, we show you something. If we're signed out, we show you something else. We're then going to import the home page. Okay, we are then going to import the sign in page. Okay, so let's do that. Then we're going to import the sign up page. Then we're going to import the dashboard page. And then I think the last one we need is the pricing page. So let's import the pricing page like that. Now we're going to create a very simple protected route function. So we're going to say function, and this is going to be protected route like so. And we're just going to take in some children. And what we're going to do is we're going to return a React fragment. And inside here, we are going to say, if you are signed in, then we will simply show the children of the protected route. Otherwise, if you are signed out, then what we're going to show is the redirect to sign in. Okay, so all this is going to do is redirect to the sign in page if you are not signed in. That's it, very easy. Now from our app, what we're going to do is we're just going to define the different routes. So if you've never used React Router DOM, all we're doing here is we're saying, okay, these are all of the different pages that you could access. So like /home, /sign in, /sign out. That's all we're putting here. And then when you go to one of those routes, it will just render the component that we wrote, which is one of these pages. So we're going to say routes. Now we're going to make a route here. For the first route, we're just going to say path is equal to slash. Okay, so that's it. So that's it for that. Now inside of this route, we're going to have a bunch of other nested routes. So we're going to say route index. Index is the default one. And we're going to say element is equal to, and then this is going to be the home page. Okay, so let's close the component like that. And then for the route, we actually don't need to close the route. We can just make it self-enclosed. Then we're going to have another route. Now for this route, we're going to say path is equal to sign dash in slash and then asterisk. And then we're going to say the element is equal to, and this is going to be the sign in page like so. Then we're going to have another route. Okay, so let's just do actually the exact same thing that we did here. And let's change this to be sign dash up. And then you guessed it, this is just going to change to sign up. Then let's copy that again. For the next route, let's change this to be slash pricing. Okay, so that's going to be the pricing page. For the element, this is going to be the pricing page. And then we can have the dashboard. So for the dashboard, we're going to say route. We're going to say the path is equal to dashboard. Then beneath here, we're going to say the element is equal to, and for the element this time, it's going to be the protected route. Okay, so protected route. And inside of the protected route, we're going to have the dashboard page. So essentially what we're saying is, okay, if you are signed in, we'll allow you to access the dashboard. If you're not signed in, we're not going to let you access the dashboard. So that's why we're using this protected route component. For all of the other pages, you can access them even if you're not signed in. That's fine. Okay. Now that's it for kind of handling the routing. Now if we run this and we go to these different pages, you'll see that it will actually just render those pages, although they won't look any different because we don't have anything different in those components, but we can actually test it for now because we can test, for example, the protected route. So let's open this up. Let's go npm run dev. Okay, it should run that for us. Let's open up our front end. Okay, you notice this is kind of the home page. And if I go to slash dashboard, for example, you'll see that it should redirect me, and you see it redirects me to the sign-in page here with Clerk, where it asks me to sign into my account because I am not already signed in. Okay, let's go back. Now let's try to go to slash sign up or something, and you can see we can just go to that route, but if we try to go to the protected one, then it brings me to the sign-in page. Awesome, so that is running. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start building kind of like the nav bar, which allows us to sign in and sign out, see if we're signed in, navigate between the different pages, and then we'll start building the various other components. So we're now gonna make another folder inside of SRC. So new folder, call this components. And for the components, we're gonna start by creating a layout component, which is gonna always be on the screen, which is gonna act kind of like a nav bar. So I'm gonna say layout.jsx. Now inside of here, I'm going to import outlet as well as link from, okay, and this is going to be React router DOM. Then I'm going to say import, and this is going to be signed in, signed out, user button. The user button is kind of like the profile button. Then we're going to have the organization, if we can spell this correctly, switcher, as well as use organization from @clerk/clerk-react. And for some reason, it's giving me an error here. It says it's defined but never used. Okay, that's fine. So we will use it later. Then we are going to define the function. So we're going to say function layout like so. We're going to say const organization. Okay, and this is going to be equal to use organization. And we're just going to put this inside of braces, so we can grab the organization. We're then going to say return, and we're going to start building this layout component. Again, the way that the layout works is that we're effectively just going to have this always be on the screen, where we're kind of showing this like nav bar at the top of the page. So for this div, we're going to have class name equal to layout. We're then going to have another div. So let's add this here. We're going to say class name is equal to, and this is going to be nav. We're then going to have another div. If you can't tell, right now we're building the nav bar. We're going to say class name is equal to nav-container. We're then going to have a link. So we're going to say link, and then this is going to be 2 equals slash, so to the home page. And we're going to say class name is equal to nav-logo. And for this, we're going to put the name. So we're going to say taskboard. If you press this, it will just bring you to the home page. Now beneath that, we're going to have another div. This is going to be class name equal to nav-links, where we'll have the different links that you can navigate between. So the first link, let's put this here, is going to go to, and we're going to go to the pricing page. Okay, so is it going to be slash pricing? Yeah, it needs to be slash pricing. The class name will be equal to nav-link. And then here we can simply say pricing. Okay, now we're going to have some dynamic things. So we're going to say signed out. So if you're signed out, then we'll show you the ability to sign in or to sign up. So we're going to have a link. Okay, and we're going to say to is equal to, and then same thing. This is going to be slash sign-in. Then we're going to have class name is equal to nav-link. And you guess what this one is going to say. It is sign in. Then let's copy it. And directly below that, we're going to have the sign up. And just change this to sign up. Okay, that's it. So if you're signed out, we'll show you this. However, if you're signed in, then we're going to show you your organization as well as your profile. So to show the organization, we're going to say organization switcher. This is a component that comes directly from Clerk. And there's a bunch of settings that we can pass here to change the styling, which is what I'm going to do. So first I'm going to say hide personal. Then I'm going to say after. Okay. And this is going to be create organization URL is equal to dashboard. Then I am going to say after select. Okay, let's spell this correctly. Organization URL is equal to the dashboard as well. Then I'm going to say create organization mode is equal to modal. So this means it's going to pop up as like a pop-up on screen rather than be a separate page that we navigate to. And then we can override the appearance, which I'm just going to quickly change because we need to change it from kind of light mode to dark mode. So we're going to say elements. And then here we're going to say use, or not use, user preview main identifier text _ personal workspace. I know this is a lot of code, but this is how I change the color. Is going to be color and then white, like that. Okay, and it looks like we spelled identifier correctly, so incorrectly, sorry, so let me just fix that. Okay. Now after that one, we're going to have organization preview main identifier _ organization switcher trigger is, and let's spell trigger correctly, and then same thing, I always keep spelling identifier incorrectly, is going to be color -white. Okay, again, I just need to change this from light mode effectively where the text is going to be black to dark mode where the text will be white. Okay, so that's it for the organization switcher. Kind of annoying to do that override, but that is just one thing we need to do. And then I'm going to say, okay, if you're currently in an organization, so let's spell organization correctly. So I'm going to say organization and then we're going to have a link, and the link is going to say to equals and then slash dashboard. Okay, and class name is equal to nav-link. And then here we're just going to say dashboard, like that. Okay, so the idea here is that a user might be signed in, but they might not yet be a part of an organization. So if they're not a part of an organization, well, I can't show them the dashboard because the dashboard only exists per organization. So that's kind of what we're talking about here in this signed in component. Now, if they're not signed in, of course, they're not in a, organization because, well, they're not signed in. So we'll just show them this to sign in or to sign up. Okay, and then we need to export this. So export default layout. And I think we are all good now. The only thing is that we need to render this outlet, and we also need to display the user button, which I forgot. So let's quickly do that. So inside, but at the end of this sign in container, we're going to put the user button, which is just going to show the user's profile. And then down here in the end of this div, we're going to say main, and we're going to put outlet. Okay, now what this is going to do is it's going to take whatever should be showing in the page that we're navigating to and just put it inside of here. So effectively the way the layout works is that we're just rendering the page inside of this outlet. Everything else is just static and always stays on screen. So this layout is always visible based on what's happening here. And then we show whatever else, kind of the content that the current screen is showing inside of this outlet. Hopefully that makes sense. So now what we need to do is just import layout from here. So we're just going to say import layout from, and this is going to be components. So I think it's ./components/layout like that. And then we're going to go to our route like this, and we're going to say the element is equal to layout. Cool. So now if we do that and we go back here, we should see the nav bar popping up, and you can see that we have pricing, sign in, sign up. And for some reason, the styling is not working 100%. So I'll have a look at that in 1 second, but that is a good start. Okay, so I was just having a look at the styling and I noticed some issues, right, in terms of how the styling is here. So I just realized I made a few errors when I was building this layout, where first for this link, I actually needed to remove the nav link that was here before and change it to this, btn-primary. And I need to take all of this and just put it one div up. So essentially after the pricing, it goes inside of here. Okay, so that it's in this nav links div, which it wasn't in before. Okay, and let's just fix this a bit so that it is all inside of here correctly. Let's fix the indentation, and you can see now that it's inside of this nav links div. So now if I come back, you can see that it's properly on the right-hand side of the screen, which is what I was looking for before. Okay, so now the layout component is finished, and what I want to do is start writing the sign in and sign up page so we actually have the ability to create an account and sign into our application. So let's start with the sign up page. Now for the sign up page, this is very easy. All we need to do is just say import sign up, and then this is going to be from the @clerk/clerk react package. And then what we can do is just return a simple div. For the div, we can say class name is equal to auth-container. And then inside the div, we can put a sign up component. We can say routing is equal to, and this is going to be path. And then we can say path is equal to /sign up. So it knows that it goes back to this page. And then we're going to say the sign in URL is equal to /sign-in. Okay, then we can actually just self-enclose this component, and that is the sign up component from Clerk. We just use it and it will work like this. Now let's do the same thing for the sign in page. So for the sign in page, it's going to be literally the exact same thing except sign in. So let's just copy what we have here. Okay, so we're going to say we're going to say import, sorry, and this is going to be sign in. Okay, from @clerk/clerk react. For the return, make it the same thing except this is going to be sign in, this is going to be sign in, and this is going to be sign up, and this is going to be the sign up URL. So just swapping those around. And now let's remove this sign up component. If we go back here, we refresh, and we press sign up, for example, you see that it brings us to the sign up page where we see the sign up modal. If you go to sign in, brings us to the sign in page. So what we can do now is try to make an account. Let me create one, press continue, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm just going to make an account here with my email. Let's close that. Okay, I'm going to need a new password, so let's set a new one. Go continue, and then what it's going to do probably is ask me to verify my email. So yes, you can see I have to verify the email. Let me do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is the code I got in my email, and now I press enter, and I get brought back to the page. Looks like there must have been some error or something. I don't think it signed me in maybe. So I signed up, but it didn't sign me in. So let me try to sign into that account now. Oh, now it's saying set up your organization to continue. Okay, that's interesting. So let's just create an organization, I guess, like Tim A or something. Okay, and let's see if it works. And there we go. Okay, now we get brought into the dashboard where it looks like we are all good. So it's a little bit buggy when we're creating the new account where we need to actually create the organization first. Otherwise, it doesn't let us access this page. I also still need to change the color. So I think I might have just had a spelling mistake when I was adjusting the parameters here. But you can see I'm inside an organization. I can now manage this information from this kind of Clerk dashboard here. And I have the ability, if I want to invite someone to my organization, I can view the dashboard, I can go to the pricing page, even though there's nothing there. And then if I press on my little user account guy, you can see that I have the account again because of Clerk. And I can, for example, just go here and go sign out, and then the UI will update and show me this. And if I go back to Clerk now and I refresh, it should start showing me my users. And you can see that I have a user here, tim@techwithtim.net. I can view all the information about the user, when they signed in, their password. Well, actually, I don't think I can view their password, but I can change or reset their password, etc., etc., etc. And I can even see their organizations, which one they belong to, invite them to an organization, mess with all of their settings. You get the idea. Okay, super cool. So the auth is working. We're able to sign in, we're able to sign up, create a new account, and create organizations. Now what we want to do is start handling kind of the task board and then get into some more of the advanced stuff where we're inviting different users, having the billing, the subscriptions, the pricing, all of that. All right, so now that we finished the login functionality, what we're going to start working on is the actual task management. So having that kind of Kanban style board like you saw, creating tasks, deleting tasks, and then of course the pricing and upgrading the organization. So let's actually start by going to the home page, and let's code this out for now so that we have kind of some styling and we have like a nice landing page people can go to. Then we can build the dashboard where you're going to be able to actually see the different tasks and move those around. Okay, so from the home page, we're going to start by importing a link from React Router DOM. Then we're going to import signed in, and then signed out, use organization, which comes from Clerk, as well as create organization. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go, and inside of the homepage component, we're going to check the organization the user is in. So we're going to say const organization is equal to use organization. Okay. So let's pull in that React hook. And from here, let's start creating the UI. So we're going to return a div. For the div, we're going to have class name is equal to, and this is going to be the home dash container. Okay, let's spell container correctly like that. Now inside of this div, we're going to have an h1. The h1 is just going to be the title. So we're going to have class name equal to home dash title. Here we're going to say team task management like that. And then we're going to put a span. We're going to say class name is equal to home and then dash title and then dash accent. And we're just going to have made simple just to add some kind of nice styling here to the header. Then we're going to have a paragraph tag. We're going to say class name is equal to, and for the class name, this is going to be the home dash subtitle. Inside the subtitle, we're going to say organize your team's work with powerful, and let's spell this correctly, with powerful task boards. Then we're going to say create, assign, and track tasks across your organization. Okay, then we're going to have a signed out container. For the users that are signed out, we're essentially just going to tell them, hey, go and create a new account. So we're going to have a div. We're going to have class name is equal to the home dash buttons. Then inside the div, we're going to have two links. So for the first link, we're going to say to is equal to sign up, and this is going to be /sign up. And then for the class name, we're going to say this is equal to btn, btn-primary, btn-lg for large. And inside the link, we're going to say get started for free. Okay, then we're going to have another link. For this one, we're going to say to, and this is going to be /sign in. And then we're going to say the class name is equal to, this will be btn, btn-outline, btn-large again. And then this is just going to say sign in. Okay, so that's it if you are signed out. Now, if you are signed in, the UI is going to look a little bit different. So first, we're going to check if you're currently in an organization. So we're going to say organization ? Okay, now if you are in an organization, then we're just going to have a link, and the link is going to go to the dashboard and just tell you, okay, go manage your tasks from the dashboard. So here we're going to say the class name for this link is going to be equal to btn, btn-primary, and then btn-lg. Okay, and we're going to say go to dashboard. Then otherwise, if you do not have an organization, we're going to have a div. So let's create the div here. The div is going to have a class name, which is equal to home-create-org. And then we're going to put create organization like this. So this is essentially a form that is rendered by Clerk. So we want to show them, hey, you need to create an organization. So we're just going to show this directly on the home page so that they can see it and they can create it. And then we're going to have after create organization URL is equal to /dashboard. Okay, so after they create an organization, we'll redirect them to the dashboard. Okay, so that's going to be it for the homepage. Effectively, what we're saying is, all right, if the user is signed out, tell them to sign in or sign up. If they're signed in, check if they have an organization. If they do, allow them to go to the dashboard. If they don't have an organization, then simply tell them to create one. Okay, so that's the homepage. Let's test it out. Let's go here. And there we go. Nice. Team task management made simple. I think we're going to have to add like a line break there because looks like it's on the same thing. So let's just add a BR like that. There we go. Looks good. And we can see we have this nice UI. Okay, so let's continue from here. And the next thing we're going to do is start coding out some of the components related to the tasks. So actually, I'm just going to close all of these windows for right now. I'm going to make a new folder here, and I'm just going to call this one services. And inside of services, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a file called api.js, where we're going to put all the calls to our backend API. So we're going to say api.js. Here, we're going to make a variable. We're going to say const api_url is equal to import.meta.env.vt_api_url, or then this is going to be http:// okay, localhost port 8000. Now, if we want to define this as a variable in the environment variable file, we can. Otherwise, it'll just load this by default if we don't have anything there. Then we're going to have a function. So we're going to say export async function, and this is going to be fetch with auth. What this is going to do is this is going to send a request to our backend with the Clerk authentication. So what I'm doing in this file is I'm writing all of the requests that will be sent to our backend, so we can simply just call the functions from our front-end code. Now here, we need to make sure that we include the correct headers, which includes the Clerk JWT token, which is essentially how Clerk identifies our signed-in users. We're going to send that to our backend along with every single request. So that's what this kind of helper function is going to do. So we're saying export async function, and this is fetch with auth. We're going to take in some endpoint. We're going to take in get token, and then options, which is equal to an empty object. We're going to say const, and this is going to be token is equal to await get token. This is a function that we're going to call from Clerk, which is going to give us the token that we need to use. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say const response is equal to await fetch. What we're going to do is we're going to fetch the following URL. So this is going to be inside of a $, because we're putting a variable, the API_URL. And then we're going to have another $, and then we're going to put the endpoint that was passed to this function. So that's the URL that we're calling. Now the options that we're going to pass is ... options. So this right here, one of our parameters, as well as we're going to pass the content-type. And this is going to be application/JSON. And then we're going to have auth. And then we're going to have authorization is bearer. And then we're going to put our token in here. This identifies the user. And then we're going to say ... options .headers. And this reminds me that I need to actually fix something because I need to put headers like this. So I need to say headers, and then all of this is going to be a header that we're passing with our options. Okay, so let's just quickly fix that as we did. Perfect. So now after the response, we're going to say if not response.ok. So response.ok. Then what we're going to do is say const error is equal to await response.json. Let's spell response correctly. .catch. And for the catch, we're just going to put something empty here because we're not going to handle that right now. Then we're going to say throw new error. And we're just going to throw the error.detail or we're going to throw request failed like that. Okay, then we're going to say if the response.status is equal to 204, so it has no content, we're just going to return null. Otherwise, we're going to return response.json, which is essentially the response, right? And whatever we got back from the API. Okay, so this is the function that we're going to call when we want to send a request to the backend with our Clerk authentication. So now what we're going to do is we're going to write the individual functions for the operations that we want to perform in the backend. So the first one is going to be export async function, and this is going to be get tasks, and this is going to get all the tasks from our backend. So same thing, we're going to take in this get token function, and we're going to return fetch with auth. Okay, and when we fetch with auth, we're going to fetch the /API /tasks route, and we're going to pass the get token function. Okay, now let's copy the same thing, and for the next one, rather than get tasks, we're going to say create task. This time we're going to take in get token, and we're going to take in a task, and then we're going to call API /tasks, but this time it's going to be a post request. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in some options here. For the option, we're going to say method is equal to, in all capitals, post, and we're going to say the body is equal to json.stringify, like so, and we're going to pass in the task. Okay, so that is now how you create the task. Now we'll paste this again, and now we're going to do update task. So we're going to say update task. Okay, we're going to take in get token. We're going to take in task ID as well as the task. We're going to fetch with auth, same thing, API /tasks. And now this time we're going to say the method is equal to put, because that's the method we use when we want to update. Then we're going to say the body is json.stringify, and we're going to stringify the task. And actually, one small change, we need to include the task ID in the URL. So we're just going to do that like this by changing these to backticks. Okay, it already is backticks. Perfect. That's great. So /API /tasks /the task ID of the task that we want to update. And then in the body, we just include the new task data that we want to use when we're updating. Okay, and then the last thing we need to do is delete a task. So we're going to change this to say delete task. Same thing, we're going to take in get token, and this time the task ID. Then we're going to change this to be a backtick. Okay, and we are going to include the task ID we want to delete. So let's include that, and we're going to change the method to be delete. So we're going to say method delete in all capitals like that. And now we have the 4 functions. So get task, create task, update task, and delete task. And now we can use those to call the backend API. Okay, so with that in mind, let's start writing the components that we need for representing the tasks. So we're going to go in the components directory, and the first component that we're going to work on is just going to be our task card. So we're going to say task card.jsx, and inside here, we're just going to write a card that represents one individual task. So we're going to say function task card, and we're going to take in as values here the task, on edit, so a function to call if we're editing the task, and a function to call if we are deleting the task. Then we're going to say const, and we're going to say can edit is equal to exclamation mark on edit. So essentially, did we pass that function? Then we're going to say const can delete. Okay, and this is going to be equal to exclamation point, and then on delete. Okay, then we're going to return the UI. So we're going to return a div. We're going to say the class name is equal to, and this is going to actually be in backticks, and we're going to say task-card. And then we're going to have a dynamic name based on if we can edit the task or not. So we're going to say can edit ? And then if we can edit, we're going to have the following task-card-clickable. So you can click the task to edit it. Otherwise, we're just going to have an empty string. So if you can't edit it, we're not going to let you click on the task, or at least we're not going to show that with this class name. Next, what we're going to do is have the onClick handler. So that's going to be in the div as well. So let's fix this here. So we're just going to fix the styling. Okay, and we're going to say like this, onClick is equal to, same thing. We're going to say can edit ? If we can edit, then we're going to call the onEdit function. So onEdit with the task. Otherwise, we're going to say undefined. Okay. Then we're going to have another div inside of here. For the div, we're going to have class name equal to, and we're going to start with the header. So we're going to say task card header. Inside this div, we're going to have an h4. So let's write that. For the h4, we're just going to put the task name. So we're going to say class name is equal to task card dash title. And then inside of here, we're going to have task dot title. Okay, now underneath the h4, we're going to have a can delete. So if we can delete, so we're going to show a delete button. So we're going to say can delete and then we're going to put a set of parentheses. We're going to put a button. For the button, we're going to say the class name is equal to, and this is going to be task-card-btn, and then task-card-btn-delete. Okay, now let's just fix the classes a little bit here. Beneath this, we're going to have the onClick. The onClick is going to be the following. So we're going to have e. Okay, then we're going to go into a function. Now inside of the function, we're going to say e.stop, and this is propagation. Okay, then after that, we're going to call the onDelete function that's passed into the parent with the task.id to delete it. Okay, then we're going to continue, and we're going to have title, and the title is going to be delete task like that for this particular button. And then we're just going to simply have an X inside of the button. That's what we're going to render on screen. Okay, so if we can delete, we're going to show that. And then beneath this, we're going to say task.description, just to make sure it does have a description. If it does, then we're going to show the description. And for that, we'll just have a paragraph tag. We'll say class name is equal to, and this can be task-card-description, like that. And then for the description, we can just show the task.description. Okay, so that should be it for the task card. Then what we can do is export this. So export default, okay, and then task card like so. And then we can start using the task card. Okay, so as well as the task card, now we're going to create the task column because we're going to have 3 columns full of task cards. So we're going to say task column.jsx. For the task column, this is just going to display the various task cards. So we're going to say import task card from there. Okay, we're then going to say const status underscore labels is equal to, and then we're going to have the labels. So we're going to have pending is equal to do. We're going to have started, which is equal to in progress. And then we're going to have completed, which is equal to done. Okay, then we're going to have function task column. This is the component. We're going to take in status. We're going to take in the tasks. We're going to take in onEdit and onDelete as those functions. And then we're going to return the UI. So we're going to return a div. The class name is going to be, for this first div, the Kanban-column. Okay, now inside of this div, we're going to have another div. So for the first one, we're going to have class name. And this is going to be inside of backticks because it's going to be dynamic. It's going to be Kanban-column-header. And then Kanban-column, let's spell column correctly, -header, and then we're going to put the status. So whatever the actual status is, we're going to use that in the class name so that we can show a different color, board, kind of based on what the status is. Then we're going to have an h3 tag for the name of the column. So we're going to have a class name for the h3, and the class name is going to be the Kanban-column-title. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the status labels, and we're going to pass in the status so that we get kind of the string representation that we actually want to show in the header. And then we're going to have a span that's just going to show the number of tasks that are here. So we're going to have class name equal to Kanban-column-count. And inside of here, we're going to have the tasks.length. Okay, now beneath that, we're going to have a div. We're going to say class name is equal to Kanban-column-body. This is where we're actually going to display the tasks. And we're effectively just going to take all the tasks and we're going to map them to their components. So we're going to say task. Okay, and then this is going to map to the task card. So we're going to say task card like that. Now for the task card, we need to write all of the values. So let's actually just put this in parentheses. Okay, put another set of parentheses. and put this down here so that we can actually write it properly. So we're going to say key is equal to task.id. Then we're going to say the task is equal to the task. We're going to say on edit is equal to on edit. And we're going to say on delete is equal to on delete. Okay, and that's going to render the tasks, and then that's it. We can just export default the task column from this component or from this file. Perfect. So now we have the task column. The task column renders the task cards. Now we need essentially like a Kanban kind of layout, so we can render the Kanban layout, which renders the columns, which renders all of the tasks. So let's write another component. This time it's going to be called the Kanban board.jsx. And inside of here, we're going to start writing all of the kind of complex logic with the functions to actually pull the tasks, display them in the correct columns, etc. So we're going to say import useState from, and then we're going to go to React. Then we're going to say import use organization from @clerk/clerk React. Then we're going to import the task column from /task column, okay, and I don't need the JSX there. Then I'm going to import the create task, update task, okay, as well as delete task. Let's write this from the services, okay, so from /services/API, because that's where we wrote these different functions. Awesome. Now we're also going to need to have a form for creating the tasks, but we will write that in 1 second. And then we're going to have const, and in capital, we're going to have statuses is going to be equal to pending, started, and completed as it matches up with our backend. Now we're going to have the components. We're going to say function Kanban board. Here, we're going to have the tasks. We're going to have set tasks, and we're going to have get token as the functions that we need. Now inside of here, we're going to say const membership is equal to use organization, and it's going to tell us what our role is within the organization. So if you want to get the role of the particular user, you can use this use organization hook from Clerk, and then you can pull membership. So previously we were looking at the organization itself here. However, we can also get the membership, and that will tell us if they're a member, an admin, an editor, whatever their role in the org is, as you've defined in Clerk when you set it up. We're also going to have const show form, set show form. This is going to be for showing the creation form, which we will write in a second. So we're going to say use state, and that's going to be false. And we're then going to have const editing task, okay, set editing task. And this is going to be equal to use state and false. And then let's get rid of that. We're going to get the role. So we're going to say const role is equal to membership dot role. So this is going to give us their role in the organization. We're going to say const can manage. So essentially, can they edit is equal to role equal to, and then we're going to say org :admin. So this is the role if they're an admin in the organization, or role is equal to org :editor, which is the other role that we created. If you had your own custom roles, all you would do is just change what you see here after the colon to that custom role's name, right? As you saw in Clerk. Okay, then we're going to have function get tasks by status. We're going to take in a status, and we're going to return tasks like this, dot filter, and then task, and we're going to go task dot status is equal to the status. So this is just going to filter all the tasks in our task list and give us the ones that are a particular status so we can put them in the correct column. Then we're going to have a function, and this is going to be handle edit. We're going to have a task, and inside of here, we're going to say set editing task, and we're going to put the correct tasks that we're currently editing. And we're going to say set show form to true. Okay, so actually I need to change this state to say null. So essentially the task that we're currently editing, we're going to store in this variable right here. The reason we need that is because in a second, we're going to pop up a form that's going to show the information for the task that we either want to create or edit. So we have two variables, right? One, okay, should we show the form on screen, yes or no? And if we are showing the form, do we have a task we're currently editing? If we do, we'll put that inside of the form so we can edit that particular task. Okay, now a few other functions that we're going to need. So for example, like deleting the task, etc. So what I'm going to do here is say function. And this is going to be actually an async function because we're going to call our backend. So we're going to say async function handle delete. This is going to take in a task ID to delete. And what we're going to do here is we're going to say if not confirm, and we're going to say, are you sure you want to delete this task, question mark? Okay, and we're just going to return. So if they didn't confirm this, because this is just going to pop up on the window, essentially ask them, hey, like, do you want to delete this or not? So if they don't confirm it, then we will not delete the task, it will return. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll say const task to delete is equal to tasks dot find, and we're going to find the task with the particular ID. So TID is equal to the task ID, like so. We're going to say set tasks, and then we're going to say previous, and we're just going to remove this task from the screen so that it goes away right away. We're going to say previous.filter, and then t.id does not equal the task ID. So effectively what we're doing is we're just finding the task that we want to delete, and then we are just removing that task from the task list immediately so that it no longer shows on screen. So we're then going to say try, await, and then delete task, like so. When we delete the task, we're going to pass in the get token function, and the get token function is right here because we're passing it to this component. We're also going to pass in the task ID that we want to delete. We then are going to catch any errors here. So we're going to say catch error, and we're going to say set tasks. So if there was an error and we're going to add this task back on the screen, we're going to say ... previous, and then the task that we originally were going to delete. And we're going to say console.error, and we're just going to show the error like that. Okay, so this is the handle delete function, which I think is all good. Now what we're going to do is handle the submit function, which is either going to update a task or create a task for us. Okay, so we're going to say async function handle submit. Again, this is going to be for editing or deleting a task, or it's not deleting, creating a task, sorry. We're going to take in some task data. Okay, what we're going to do here is we're going to say if we are currently editing a task. So if we have one that we're editing, then what we're going to do is we're going to say const updated task is equal to, and we're going to say ... editing task, and then ... the new task data that we have. So we're going to merge those two together to effectively update the task that's currently on our UI. We're then going to say set tasks. We're going to take the previous list of tasks, and we're going to say previous.map, and then what we're going to do is say t, okay, standing for task, and we're going to say t.id, and this is going to be triple equal to editing task.id question mark. If it is, we're going to put the updated task. Otherwise, we're just going to put the original task, and that's going to update the tasks on screen for us. We're then going to say set show form false and set editing task to null. Okay, now inside of this if statement, we're then going to send the request to our backend to actually delete it. So effectively what we're doing is we're updating the UI so it looks like it happens right away, and then we're actually deleting the task by sending the request to the backend. So we're going to say try, await, and this is going to be update task. Okay, so this is calling that backend function, right, that we imported here. So update task. Now when we call, sorry, update, not updated. When we call update task, we're going to pass in the get token, the editing task.id, as well as the task data that we want to update it with. Then we're going to catch any errors. Let's fix this here. So we're going to say catch error. And for this, we're going to say set tasks. And then same thing, we're going to restore the previous task if there was an error. So we're going to say previous.map t.id is equal to editing task.id question mark editing task colon and then t. Okay, so essentially we check, is the current task that we're looking at the one that we were editing? If it was, okay, just put the editing task back. Otherwise, just put the original task. Okay, we're then going to say console.error, and we're just going to log the error so we can see the message. Okay, now if that's not the case, so if we're not updating the task, then that must mean that we're creating a new one. So what we're going to do is say try const new task is equal to await create task. To create the task, we're going to pass, again, that get token function, as well as the task data. We're then going to say set tasks, and we're going to add this new task. So we're going to say previous, and then this is going to be a list where we say dot, 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 previous, and then the new task, like that. And then we're going to say set show form, false like that, to no longer show the form. And then we can catch any errors. And if we have any errors, we can just console.error the error, right? Okay, so let's spell error correctly. Perfect. So that should be good for essentially handling the submit. So this is when they submit the form, but we still need to have a few other functions. So we're going to have the function, to handle cancel. So this is if they're canceling an edit or a creation. So to handle cancel, we're going to say set show form is false and set editing task to null. Okay, and then we're going to have a function, and this is going to be handle add task. Let's spell handle correctly. What we're going to do here is we're going to say set editing task to null. So if they're adding one, then we're no longer editing one. And then we're going to say set show form to true to show the form that's going to allow us to start editing. Now, I know we don't have that form yet. We're going to put that on the screen in just 1 second. For now, though, let's return kind of that empty Kanban board so we can at least have a look at it, and then we can create that creation form. So we're going to have div class name here. This is going to be the Kanban-wrapper. Then we're going to have another div. Inside this div, we're going to have a class name, which is equal to the Kanban-header. Then inside of here, we're going to have an h2. For this, it's going to be called tasks. And then we're going to have the class name equal to the Kanban-title for this particular h2. We're then going to have a can manage variable. So, okay, if we are able to actually manage the tasks, that means we can create one. So what we're going to show is the ability to create a task by adding a button with the class name, which is equal to btn-primary. Then we're going to have on click, which is equal to, and this is going to be, let's write this again, handle add task like so. And then for this, we're going to say plus add task. So essentially, if you have the ability to edit, so you can create a new task, then we will show you this button where when you press the button effectively, we're going to call this where it will show the form and let you make a new task. Okay, so let's move over to that div because that's the header, and let's make another div. This time we're going to say class name is equal to, and this is going to be the Kanban board. Okay, for the Kanban board, what we're going to do is show 3 columns. So we're going to say statuses, right, dot map. I think we called it statuses up here. Let's check. Yes, statuses dot map. We're going to take the status, and we're going to map this to a task column component. So here, let's make sure this is correct. And we're going to put task column, which I believe we imported already. For the task column, let's go down here. We are going to have a key. The key will be equal to the status. Then we can have the status, which is, of course, equal to the status. Then the tasks. For the tasks, this is going to be the function get tasks by status, and then we'll pass the status there to get all the tasks. Then we're going to have on edit, which is going to be equal to can manage question mark handle edit, otherwise null. And then we're going to have on delete, which same thing is going to be equal to can manage question mark handle, and this is going to be delete, and then otherwise null. Okay, so only if we're able to edit are we going to have the ability to delete or, of course, well, edit the tasks. And then down here, we're going to have show form, and for now I'm going to write null, but in a second, this is where we're actually going to show the form that allows us to create new tasks. Then we're going to say export default the Kanban board. Okay, so what we're missing here is the form to be able to create the tasks. However, before we put that there, I want to first show this Kanban board on screen. In order to do that, I need to go to my pages, and I need to go to my dashboard page, and I need to quickly write the dashboard page to display the Kanban board and also load all of our tasks. So let's do that. So we're going to go to the top of our Kanban, our dashboard, sorry, and we're going to say import use state, import use effect, import use callback from React. we're then going to say import use auth, use organization, as well as create organization from clerk/clerk React. Then we're going to say import get tasks. Okay, and this is going to be from /services, so the file we write before, /API, and we're going to import the Kanban board from the components file. From the dashboard page, there's a few things that we need. So first we need that get token function so we can get the token from Clerk. So we're going to say const get token equals use auth. Now this is how it works in Clerk. You can use this hook called use auth, which will give you access to a get token function. We can call the get token function, which will then give us the Clerk authorization token or JWT token, which we can then pass to the backend to authenticate the request. So that's where I'm getting it, right, from this particular hook. Then same as before, I can say const organization membership, okay, is going to be equal to use organization. And for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say membership, okay, and then infinite is equal to true. Now, what this is going to allow me to do is get the membership status as well as the organizations. Okay, and when I say memberships infinite true, what that's going to do is just allow us to display all of the memberships that a particular user has, which is what we're looking for. Okay, so now what we're going to do is say const, and then we're going to say tasks, set tasks is equal to use state, and this is going to be an empty list for now because we haven't loaded the tasks. Then we're going to say const loading, set loading is equal to use state, and to start, the loading state is going to be true. Then we're going to have const error, and then we're going to say set error is equal to use state, and then for now this is going to be null. Then we're going to say const member, and this is going to be count is equal to membership question mark dot count or 0, so we can figure out how many members are in the particular organization, because that's what we want to display on this page. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say const org ID is equal to organization question mark dot ID. And now we're going to start writing some functions to load the task. So we're going to say const load tasks. Okay, this is a function. So we're going to say use callback. And this is going to be async. And then inside of here for this particular function, we're going to say try. We're going to say set loading is equal to true. We're going to say set error. Okay, is error spelled correctly? Yes, it is. To null. Then we're going to say const data is equal to await get tasks, which is the function we're calling from that file we wrote before. Now we're passing that get token function so we can actually get the Clerk token. We're going to catch on error, and we're going to say set error, and this is going to be error dot message. And then we're going to go here to a finally block. And for the finally, we're going to say set loading equal to false, because no matter what, we want to stop that loading state. Then what we're going to do is just remember to set the tasks with the data, because we need to do that. Otherwise, this isn't going to update anything for us. And we're going to put in the dependency array of this callback, the get token function, so that if that updates, that we will do this again to get the new tasks for this new token, which will be based on the organization that the user is currently active inside of, as well as which user is signed in. Then we need a really quick use effect hook so that we can run this automatically when the component mounts. So in the dependency array, we're going to put the org ID as well as the load tasks function. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to say if org ID, so if we do have an organization, load tasks, okay. Otherwise, we're going to say set loading to false. Okay, and load tasks is this function right here. Perfect. So we're essentially doing a use effect. We're saying, all right, right when it loads, if we have an organization ID, we'll try to load the tasks. If we don't need to load anything because there's no task to load unless we're inside of an organization. Now, quickly, we're going to say if you are not in any organization, then what we need to do is return just a quick little UI to show you something. So we're going to say class name is equal to dashboard dash container. Then we're going to have another div with class name equal to no-org-container. Then we're going to have an h1. This is going to have a class name, which is going to be equal to no-org-title. And then we're going to say welcome to taskboard, which is going to be the name of the app, right? Then we'll put a paragraph tag, and we're going to say class name is equal to no-org-text. And then inside of here, we're going to say create or join an organization to start managing tasks with your team. Okay. And let's spell managing correctly. Now, after that paragraph tag, we're just going to show the create organization form from Clerk, which I think was right there. Perfect. So create organization. And after create organization, URL is going to be equal to /dashboard, which I know is the page we're currently on, but it will refresh the page. Okay, perfect. So that's if you don't have an organization. Now, if you do have an organization, we're just going to simply show the dashboard with the Kanban page. So we're going to say div class name is equal to the dashboard-container. Then inside of this div, we're going to have another div for the header. So we're going to say div class name is equal to, and this is going to be the dashboard-header. Then we're going to have a div with no class name, and here we're going to have an h1. For the h1, we're going to put the name of the organization. So we're going to say organization.name, and this is going to have a class name. The class name is going to be equal to dashboard-title. Then we're going to have a paragraph tag. This is going to be class name equal to the org-members. Then we're going to show the member count. So we're going to say member count, and then we're going to say member, and then we're going to put the member count does not, okay, so does not equal 1, question mark, we're going to have an S. Otherwise, we're going to have an empty string. So we're going to say like 1 member or 2 members or 3 members. So plural or not plural, depending on if we have 1 or more. Okay, so this is our little header component right here. Now beneath that, we're going to say loading question mark. So if we are loading, we're going to quickly show, let's do this. We're going to quickly show a loading paragraph tag. So we're going to say paragraph class name is equal to text dash muted. And we're just going to say loading tasks ... Otherwise, we're going to say, is there an error? If there is an error, then we're quickly going to show what that error is. So we're going to put a div. We're going to say class name is equal to, and this is going to be card-error. And then we're going to have a, not div, but actually a paragraph tag with class name equal to text-error. And then this is inside of here, text-error-title. And we're going to say error like this, loading tasks. And then we're going to show what the error actually is. So we're going to do another paragraph tag. And same thing, we're going to have class name is equal to text-error. And then this is going to be text-error-message. And we're going to put the particular error. Okay, now if that's not the case, so if it's not loading and we don't have an error, we're finally going to show the Kanban board. So we're going to show Kanban board. For the Kanban board, we need to pass in the information. So we're going to pass in the tasks, which is equal to tasks. We're going to pass in set tasks, which is equal to the set tasks state. And we're going to pass in the get token, which is equal to that get token function. Okay, so that should now load all of the tasks for us and display them in the dashboard. Let's try it out by signing into our account and seeing if it works. Okay, so I just signed into my account. I also just created a new organization called test, and you can see that we now have the Kanban state. We have to do, in progress, and done. It's all showing up properly for us. And if we decide to maybe make a new organization, test 1, 2, 3 or something, okay, create organization, and notice that this changes now, right, in the background to test 1, 2, 3. And we can change between the different organizations, and the dashboard page will update accordingly. Now we need to make the form to create a new task. Let's go ahead and do that. So let's go to components. Let's make a new file, and this is going to be called the task form.jsx. Now for the task form, we're going to start by importing what we need. So we're going to say import use state and use effect from React. We're then going to say function task form, and we're going to have the, if we can write this correctly, task on submit and on cancel. Now what we're going to do here is say const, and we're going to say title, set title is equal to use state. So we're going to start putting in all of the fields that we need to create a new task. We need a title, a description, and a status. So we have the title. Now we're going to do the description. So const description set description is equal to use state, and then same thing, empty string. Then we're going to have const status set status is equal to use state, and by default we'll just start it in the pending status. Then we're going to have const is editing is equal to not task. Okay, so do we already have a task? If we do, then we're editing. If we don't have a task, we are not editing. We're then going to have a use effect, and we're essentially going to check, okay, are we currently editing the task? If we are currently editing the task, so we need that in the dependency array, then we need to update the state here with what is passed from this task. So we're going to say if task, okay, then what we're going to do is say set title, and this is going to be task.title. We're going to say set description, and this is going to be task.description, okay, or, and then this is an empty string. Then we're going to say set status, and this is going to be task, like, oops, let's go fix this, task.status, like so. Okay, we're then going to have an else. In the else, we're going to say set title to an empty string. So this is if we're not editing, then we just want to make sure that it's empty. We're going to say set description to an empty string, and we're going to say set status equal to pending. Okay, so this is the beginning of our form. Again, just handling if we're editing or not, because we could be passed some data in this task variable here. That is what we want to populate the form with to start. Then we're going to have a function handle submit. On handle submit, we're going to have e. What we're going to do is say e.prevent default, so we don't refresh the page. We're going to say if not, title.trim, then return. We need to have a title to be able to create a task. And we're going to say on submit, which is the function that's passed here. And we're going to pass to this the data. So we're going to say title is title.trim. We're going to say description is description. So let's go here, is description.trim or null. And then we're going to pass the status. Okay, so that's our on submit. Now we need to render the actual form. So we're going to say return div. For the first div, this is going to be a modal. So what I'm going to do is say class name is equal to modal-overlay. Okay, let's spell that correctly. We're going to have on click is equal to on cancel. So if you click outside of the modal, that's what this is going to be, then it will close it. We're then going to have a div. We're going to have the class name for this div to be the actual modal itself. So essentially we have like the modal background and then the modal. If you click outside of the modal, which is this, then we'll close the modal. Now we're going to have an on click in the modal. So we're going to say on click is equal to, and this is going to be, e, and then this is going to be e.stop propagation. Okay, now we're going to go inside of this div. We're going to have another div. We're going to have class name is equal to, and then this is going to be the modal-header. Then we're going to have the h2. We're going to have class name is equal to, and this is going to be the modal title. And what we're going to do is say, okay, well, if we are editing, so if is editing, then we're going to put edit task. Otherwise, we're going to put new task as the title for this modal. Now, beneath that, we're going to have a button. This button is going to have a class name, which is equal to the modal-close to close the modal. We're going to have an on click, which is going to be equal to on cancel. And then we're going to have an X. Okay, so that's the X button in the header. Now, beneath that, we're going to have a form. The form is going to have an on submit. The on submit is going to be the handle submit function that we already wrote. Inside of the form, we're going to have some form groups. So we're going to have a first one. So we're going to have div class name is equal to form dash group. Then for the first form group, we are going to put the title. Okay, so let's put that here. We're going to say label, and this is going to be class name is equal to form dash label. We're going to say HTML4. So HTML4 is equal to label, or is equal to title, sorry. The label is going to say title. And then beneath that, we're going to have an input box. So we're going to say input. And for the input, we're going to say ID is equal to title. We're going to say type is equal to text. We're going to say class name is equal to the form dash input. We're going to say the value is equal to the title. So let's do that there. We're going to say on change is equal to, and this is going to be E, and then this is set title E dot target dot value. Okay, then we're going to have the placeholder, which is equal to enter task title. And then we're going to have autofocus true. Okay, so this is the first input that we need. Now we're going to copy this entire one, and we're going to go to the second input, which is the description. So same thing, form group, form label. This time we're going to write description. Then we're going to put description here. So description, and just spell description correctly. Okay, now rather than the ID being title, this is going to be description. Now this time, rather than input, it's going to be a text area. The ID is description. We can remove the type. The class name is going to be form-text area. The value is going to be the description. Again, I keep spelling description incorrectly. Rather than enter the task title, we're going to say enter description. Okay, and then this is going to be optional. Let's spell description correctly. And rather than set title, this is going to be set description. Okay, so that's the description. And then lastly, we need to handle the status. So same thing, let's copy this just to give us a head start. Let's paste it. We'll have the label again, and this time we just change it to say status. So status, and here this will say status. Now rather than a text area, I'm actually just going to delete all of this because we're going to use a select box. So we're going to say select. And then we're going to say inside of the select here, the ID is equal to status. We're going to say the class name is equal to a form dash select. We're then going to say the value is equal to the status. And we're going to say on change is equal to, same as before, E. And then we're going to say set status E dot target. Okay, target dot value, and then inside of the select, we're going to put the select options. So we're going to say option value is equal to pending as the first value, and then for the text, we'll just put to do. We can copy this 2 times and then put the other options. So rather than just pending, we're going to have started, and we're going to have completed, and then for this, we'll have in progress, and we'll have done. And then lastly, we just need one more div here to actually, complete the action. So we're going to say div class name is equal to form actions, because this is where we're going to put the submit button. We're then going to put a button. For the button, we're going to say type is equal to button. We're then going to say class name is equal to btn dash outline. We're going to say on click is equal to, and then this is going to be on cancel. This button is going to say cancel, and then we're going to have one more button. Let's copy this one here. This one is going to say the following. So if we're editing, so we're going to say is editing question mark. Then we're going to say save changes. Otherwise, we're going to say create task. And then rather than the outline, this is going to be btn primary. And we don't need an on-click because this will be handled in the form submission, because we're going to change the type to stay submit. And that should complete this form. All right, so now that the task form is created, what we're going to do is just export this. So export default task form, and we're going to bring it in to our, I think it's the Kanban page where we want to display it. Yes, so we're going to first import it from the Kanban page. So let's go import task form from task form. And we're going to go down here where we say show form, and we're going to show the task form and pass the props that we need. So we're going to say task is equal to, and this is going to be editing task. Then we're going to have the on submit. So on submit is equal to handle submit. And then on cancel is going to be equal to handle cancel. And let's fix the formatting a little bit so that we can actually read this. We're not going to call these functions. We're just going to pass the function names. And there we go. We now have the form. So let's test this out and see if the form works. Okay, it looks a little bit messed up. So I think I probably messed up some of the CSS. Let me see what I did wrong there and I'll be right back. Okay, so it looks like I have this whole form not actually inside the modal. So I need to essentially copy this whole form and we're just going to delete it from there and place it inside of the modal div. So it gets moved inside there. Okay, so that's good. Now, if we go back and we go add task, you can see that it shows up as a proper modal. Okay, so let's try to add a task. Let's go hello world, new task, and create it. And we can see that nothing is happening. Okay, so let's check our console and see if we're getting any errors here. It says failed to fetch. There's a CORS error that's been blocked. Okay, let me have a look at this and I'll be right back. Okay, so I just found the error here. Essentially in our backend, in our task schema, we have an ID which is an int, which actually needs to be a string. So if we change this to a string, it should fix it. We were getting an internal server error that was saying unable to parse int as string. So we just need to fix that, which I just did. Again, go to backend, go to app, schemas, task, and then simply switch the ID in the task response from an int to a string. Now, if we go back here, let's just refresh and try it again. And you can see these tasks get created and actually were created. They simply were not being shown on the screen because we were getting an error. Now, we also have an error with this X button that I want to fix. So I'm going to look at the styling for that. Let's try to delete it. Looks like it deletes successfully. Let's try to edit it. Looks like we can edit it as well. Perfect. So it's working. And let's just try to add another task. So let's go test. Okay. Hello. Create this task. And we have hello. Okay, let's just refresh here. And yeah, it looks like we are good. Yes, test hello, like that. Perfect. Okay, so let's now fix the styling because this is a little bit messed up on the card with the X button and the description kind of showing here. And then we'll go from there. Okay, so the issue is just that we have the description inside of the wrong div in our task card. So we're just going to move it out here like that. Now, in order to fix this, just go to the task card, scroll down to where you see the description, and just move it out one div. So we had it inside of this div, the header. We don't want it in the header. We just want it outside of that. And then we should be good to go. And if we come back here, you can see now the description is below and the X button is in the top right, which is exactly what we're looking for. So at this point, the tasks are working. Now, this member count doesn't seem to be working, which we can have a look at. But the next thing we need to do is have a look at actually increasing the organization member limits and the pricing. So we can have subscriptions and billings, etc. So let's change over to this org. And I just want to show you that if I go into an organization here and I go to manage, for example, and members, I can invite members. So let me invite some more members and show you what happens when we try to invite more than 2. Okay, so I just invited Tim at devlaunch.us, one of my other emails. And when I went to this email, you can see this is the email I received, right? Where it says, hey, development invitation to join and test. I'm going to accept that invitation. When I accept the invitation, it should actually redirect me back to my front end. And you can see that it does. And I am, let's have a look at here, signed in with the other account. So let me just sign out and sign in with this new account that I accepted the invite from. Okay, so I actually just accepted the invite again because since I was already signed in, it gave me an error. But when I accepted the invite, when I wasn't signed in, because I just signed out, you can see it just asked me to fill in a password. So let's just use that password. That's fine. Press continue. And now you can see that I'm signed in as Tim at devlaunch.us. And the only organization I'm in is test, in which I am a member. So let me now sign out of this account. Actually, let's go to the dashboard so we can see the same task board as we saw before, but notice that I can't do anything. I can't edit or delete or add a task because I'm just a member. I'm not an editor. So let me sign out of this. Let me sign in with my other account. Now you'll see that it's tim@techwithtim.net. If I go to the dashboard, now I can actually change stuff because I am an editor, or in this case, an admin. And what I'm going to do is try to invite another member. So you could see Tim@devlaunch is invited. And when I press invite and I go, for example, Kenny@devlaunch.us, and I want to send that invitation, it says I cannot because I reached the limit of 2 organization memberships. So that's exactly what we want. But what we want now is that we allow the user to actually create a subscription where they buy our pro tier, which then allows them to invite more members. So let's start setting that up inside of Clerk, and then we'll fix this member count issue as well. Okay, so we're going to go back to Clerk. We're going to go to configure, and we're going to go to the billing. Now from the billing, we have the subscription plans, right? So we created the pro tier. Just make sure you have that. Now, all we need to do is actually use this pricing table component directly inside of our website to be able to display the different tiers that we have here, and then a user will be able to purchase it. So what I can do is I can go to pages, go to my pricing page, and I can write a really simple component that just displays the different pricing options. So in order to do that, I'm going to say import, and then I'm going to say use organization from Clerk/Clerk React. I'm also going to import the pricing table as well as the create organization view from Clerk React. Okay, and actually all of this can just be together, but I think we'll just leave it in 2 because it's a little bit easier to read. We now have the pricing page. From the pricing page, I'm going to say const, and this is going to be organization, and then membership like this is equal to use organization. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that this member is an admin before we allow them to view this page, because only an admin should be able to manage the subscription and billing of the organization. So we're going to say const is admin is equal to membership dot role is equal to org:admin. Okay, now we're going to say if there is no organization, because it's possible the user is not a part of any, then what we're going to do is we're going to say return div. We're going to say class name is equal to pricing dash container. We're then going to say div class name is equal to no dash org dash container. We're going to have an h1. It's going to say view pricing. The class name is going to be equal to no org dash title. Underneath the h1, we're going to have a p. And we're going to say class name is equal to no dash org dash text. And the text here is going to say create or join an organization, okay, to view pricing plans. Cool. And let's spell join correctly. Then underneath this, we're going to put the create organization modal, and we're going to say after create organization URL is equal to /pricing. Cool. So we have that now. So if there's no organization, it will show them this. Otherwise, we need to show them the pricing table. So we're going to go here and we're going to say div. We're going to say class name is equal to the pricing dash container. Then we're going to do a div. We're going to say class name is equal to the pricing dash header. Then we're going to have an h1. We're going to say class name is equal to the pricing dash title. Then we're going to say simple, transparent pricing, and we'll remove this comma because that doesn't make sense. Underneath the h1, we'll put a paragraph tag, and we'll say start free with up to 2 members, upgrade to pro for unlimited members. Okay, then we're going to go beneath this div, and we're going to check if they are an admin. So we're going to say is admin ? If they are an admin, we're going to put a paragraph tag, and we're going to say, sorry, if they're not an admin, because we have the exclamation point. So if they're not admin, we're going to have the class name equal to, and this is going to be text dash muted, and then pricing dash admin dash note. And this is going to say contact your organization's admin to manage the subscription. And then otherwise, okay, so let's go here. Otherwise, what we're going to do is we're going to display the pricing table. And it's important that we put for organization, because sometimes you can have individual pricing as well as organization pricing. So in our case, we just go organization, and then we spell subscription correctly. And now if we go to the pricing page, we should see the pricing table. So let's go here, refresh, let's go pricing. And you can see, because we are the admin of the organization, it shows us the free tier as well as the pro tier. And what we can do is we can subscribe to the pro tier. So let's do that. If we subscribe to the pro tier, we can just pay with a test card. So let's do that. And when we pay with the test card, we'll just go continue. It will make the payment. And now if we go back to pricing, you can see that this pricing is active and we are pro. So if we go back to dashboard, okay, it's giving us an error saying view permission required. Let's see why we're getting that. Okay, so I just had a look at this, and the reason why we're getting that error is because if we have a look in the plans here, in our pro tier, we needed to add this tasks as a feature to the organization in order for any of the other permissions that we apply per the user roles to actually work. So effectively what we need to do is we just had to go here to add feature and then just check on tasks. And when we do that, now all of this is good, and this feature will be available to people that are in the pro tier. Now by default, it is available to the free tier. So if you have a look here, you can see it's already in there. If we didn't want users to be able to create tasks in the free tier, we could just remove that feature, but I need to add it to the pro tier so it's available there as well. That's why we're getting that issue saying, hey, you don't have permission to view this, but now it's working because I re-added that perm. Okay, so now the pricing is working. If we go to the organization and we manage it, for example, we can actually view the billing right now, and we could manage it. We can cancel the subscription. We can change the plans. We can view the billing history, the statements, the payments, the payment method. All of that kind of stuff is handled directly by Clerk for us. Cool. So let's quickly fix this members count, and then let's move on to the next feature, which is actually allowing the organization to invite more members, because right now, if I go here and I try to invite someone else, you'll see Kenny at devlaunch.us. It's not going to allow me to do that because I haven't yet updated the organization membership limits. Okay, so the issue is pretty straightforward, but effectively I forgot to write memberships instead of membership. So I just need to change this to say memberships and this to say memberships. And now if we go back here and we have a look, you can see it shows 2 members and the count is now updated. Okay. So next, like I said, what we're going to do is make it so that we can actually update the subscription account, or update the number of members, sorry, for a particular organization when it upgrades to Pro. So if you go to settings, for example, inside of organizations, right, you'll see that it says limited membership. But it shows us that we can actually update the membership in the dashboard, or the number of members, or via Clerk's Backend API. So if we click into this, you'll see Clerk has all kinds of different APIs that you can use, one of which allows you to actually change the max allowed memberships per an organization. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a webhook where when someone purchases the Pro subscription and it's verified by Clerk, we send a request to Clerk telling it to update this organization so that it can have more members. Now, the way the webhook works is that we're going to set an endpoint on our server that Clerk will send a request to tell us, hey, this user just purchased Pro. When they purchase Pro for an organization, we're then going to tell Clerk, hey, go ahead and update the membership count so they can have unlimited members. So in order to do that, we're going to go into Clerk. We're going to go to developers and then webhooks. Now, when we go here, what we're going to do is create a new webhook. So we're going to go add endpoint, and we're going to scroll down and we're going to find, let's have a look at this here, subscription. And we're just going to check the box right here for subscription. When we do that, anytime anything changes with the subscription, Clerk will send a request to the URL that we're going to put right here. Now, in order for the webhook to work in development, we're going to use something called ngrok. ngrok is free, and it works as a proxy that allows you to take a public IP address and associate that with something running on localhost or your own computer. So what you're going to need to do is download ngrok. I'll leave a link to it in the description. You also can just search for ngrok. Once you download it, you're going to need to sign into an account. So make a new account on ngrok and then sign into it in your terminal. The way that you're going to do that is you're simply going to go in your terminal. Once ngrok is installed, you're simply going to type ngrok. When you do that, it's going to tell you to sign into ngrok. In my case, I'm already signed in, so I don't need to do anything. And when you try to sign in, it's going to prompt you to sign in with the browser. You can sign in, it will connect your account, and then you are good to go. So download ngrok, make sure you create an account on the website, sign into that account from your terminal by either just typing the command I'm about to type or typing ngrok. It should prompt you to sign in. And then type the command ngrok http 8000, where 8000 matches the port that your backend server is running on. So port 8000, okay? When you do that, it's going to create a forwarding URL. So this one right here is what you want to look at. And now any requests sent to this URL will be forwarded to your backend API, so localhost port 8000. This allows us to test in development mode the webhook, which you're going to see in 1 second. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my Clerk here, and I'm going to paste this URL. Make sure you remove all of the spaces, and I'm going to put /API/webhooks like that. I'm then going to put one more slash, and I'm going to put Clerk. So now what will happen is anytime a subscription changes in my Clerk project, it's going to send a request to this endpoint, which is one that we're going to write in 1 second in FastAPI. So we're going to go ahead and press on create. And then from here, we're going to grab the webhook signing secret. So we're going to reveal that and copy it. We're now going to go back into our code. We're going to go into our backend now, so no longer our front end. We're going to go to our .env file. We're going to paste the Clerk webhook secret. Now this secret is going to allow us to actually verify that the request that was sent came from Clerk, because anybody can hit this webhook that we're creating. So we have this special key that Clerk is going to send along with the request. We're going to look at it, we're going to go, okay, if you're actually Clerk, then you would have sent this key. If it sends the key, we know it's Clerk, it's good. We can actually verify that webhook request. If they didn't send the key or the key is wrong, then it means someone is trying to fake being Clerk and kind of get like a free pro account, which we're of course not going to allow them to do. So that's why you need this signing secret to verify the webhook. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go into app, API, webhooks.py, and we're going to start writing this file. So we're going to say import JSON. We're going to say from FastAPI, import the API router, request, HTTP exception, let's spell that correctly, and status. We're then going to say from svix, svix.webhooks, import, and we're going to import webhook and webhook verification error. We're then going to say from app.core.config import settings, so we can get the webhook secret, and we're going to say from app.core.clerk import clerk. Okay, now what we're going to do here is we're going to create a router, because this is going to be an API endpoint. So we're going to say API router, and this is going to say prefix is equal to /API/webhooks. Let's spell webhooks correctly. Then we're going to say tags is equal to webhooks. Then we're going to say pro_tier_slug is equal to pro_tier, which is what we're going to look for from the webhook data that is sent to us. We're going to say the free tier_limit is equal to the settings.freeTierLimit. And we're going to say the unlimited limit is equal to, and we're just going to put a really large number, because when we set seats, it's not truly unlimited. We're just going to set a really, really large value so that you can have as many members as you want. We're then going to make a function. So we're going to say define set_org_member_limit. We're going to say org_id string and then limit int. And then what we're going to do is say clerk.organizations.update directly from the Clerk SDK. And we're going to say the organization ID. Okay, so organization ID is equal to the org ID, and the max allowed memberships is equal to whatever limit is passed to this function. And that's as easy as it is using the Clerk Backend SDK to just update an organization's membership limit. Now we're also going to have a function that says has active pro plan, and we're going to say items list, and then what we're going to do is return a Boolean. Now from here, we're going to say return any, and we're going to say item.get plan, and then this is going to be an empty dictionary in case plan doesn't exist. .get slug is equal to the pro tier slug, and item.get status is equal to active for item in items. Now the reason for this is what's going to happen is whenever the webhook is sent, it's going to give us a bunch of data. In that data, there's going to be a list of items. We're going to look through those items to see if any of the items refer to the plan, right? So we're looking for plan. And if it does refer to a plan, we're going to check the name of the plan, which is a slug, to see if it's the pro plan. And we're going to see if it's active. So if we found a pro plan that's active, then that means we need to update that organization's membership limit, which is what we're going to do. So we're going to have an @router.post event here. We're just going to post this to /clerk. And we're going to say async define, and this is going to be the clerk underscore webhook. This is where we're going to actually handle the request coming from clerk. We're then going to say inside of here, the payload is equal to await, and this is going to be the request.body. This is the data that clerk is sending us. And we're going to say the headers is equal to the dictionary of request.headers. Then we're going to attempt to verify the webhook. So we're going to say if settings.clerk underscore webhook underscore secret. Then what we're going to do is say try, and we're going to say WH is equal to webhook, and we're going to say payload, and then headers, and we're going to say event is equal to WH dot verify, and we're going to verify with the payload and headers. And sorry, the webhook, I just wrote this in the wrong way. It needs to be settings.clerk webhook secret, sorry. Okay, then we're going to say accept, and we're going to accept a webhook verification error, and we're going to raise an HTTP exception. We're going to say status.http, and then this is going to be 400 bad request. We're going to say invalid signature. Okay, so what we're doing right now is we're essentially just verifying to see, okay, is the data that was sent to this webhook actually valid? So we say, do we have a webhook secret? If we do, we're going to create a webhook object, and we're going to verify that the data that was just sent to us is valid and contains that signature. Now, otherwise, we're just going to say event is equal to json.loads and then payload. So if we didn't define a secret, then we'll just allow anything to hit this endpoint. Okay, then we're going to say the event type is equal to event.get, and we're going to get the type, because the webhook is going to respond to different events related to the subscription. So like created, canceled, past due, etc., right? It's going to send all those different types of events. So we need to look at those events and then handle the correct ones. We're then going to say data is equal to event.get data, and then an empty dictionary in case data doesn't exist. And we're going to check the different events that could occur in this webhook. Specifically, if a subscription was created or was updated, or if a subscription was deleted or canceled. So we're going to say if event underscore type is in, and this is going to be a list, we're going to say subscription dot created or subscription dot, and this is going to be updated. So these are the ones where we're essentially going to allow the user more limits or more seats. We're going to say org ID is equal to data.get, and then payer, this is the person who paid, okay, dot get the organization ID. So we're looking for the ID of the organization of the person who paid. Then we're going to say if org ID, what we're going to do is say limit is equal to, and then this is going to be unlimited limit, if the has active pro plan data dot get, and then here items otherwise an empty array. And sorry, that needs to be inside of here. Okay, otherwise we're going to say else free tier limit. All right, so we're going to make the limit unlimited if they have an active pro plan. So we're going to check the plan to make sure that it is actually active. If it is active, then we'll give them the unlimited limit. Otherwise, we're going to set their limit to the free limit. Okay, then underneath this if, so in the same block, we're going to say set underscore org member limit, and then we're just going to pass the org ID. So org ID and this new updated limit. Okay, now elif, the event type, is in, and now this is going to be the subscription dot deleted or the subscription dot canceled. Then what we're going to do is say the org underscore ID is equal to data dot get, and same thing as before, we're going to get the payer, okay, and then we're going to get the organization underscore ID. Then we're going to say if there is some org ID, we're just going to set the org member limit of that org ID to be the free tier limit because they canceled their subscription. Then we're going to return received is true. Okay, we just got to spell received correctly. So that's all we need for the webhook. Now Clerk can send a request to this. We can handle that request and we can update the limit for a particular organization. So if we go now, we can just refresh the webhook, okay? Now from here, we can go to testing and we can test this with a particular event if we want, and we can see if that works. However, we'll just test it with a new organization. So we're gonna go here, I'm just gonna refresh. What I'll do is just swap over to my test 123 organization. Now I wanna verify with this organization that we cannot invite more members. So let's try to invite a few. Let's go Tim at techwithtim.net or Tim at devlaunch.us. Okay, let's send the invitation. Let's try to send another one. Let's go Kenny at devlaunch.us and send that, and it says we've reached a limit of 2 organization members. Now what I'll do is I will upgrade to that pro plan. So I'm going to go pricing and I'm going to go subscribe. Okay, from here, I'm just going to pay with the test card. And when I pay with this now, let's go continue. And now I'm going to go to my dashboard. I'm going to go here, manage members, and I'm going to try to invite Kenny. So let's go Kenny at devlaunch.us. And we got an error, so let me check my logs, and it looks like the webhook is saying it was not found. So API webhooks clerk, aha. So the reason why is we did not actually connect the webhook to our main app, which I need to do right here. So let's connect the webhook. The way that we can do that is we can just go here. We could say from, actually, webhooks. We can just import it like that. And then we can simply say at app.include underscore router and then webhooks.router. Okay, so now that we do that, the webhook should work. However, it's giving us an issue saying there's no free tier limit in our settings. So let's quickly go check our settings and see if that's the case. Config, and we do have a free tier membership limit. Okay, so let's just change this to just say limit and then run this, and hopefully now it should work. Okay. And now let's test the webhook again. So what we can do is we can go to, for example, billing, we can go manage, and we can cancel this. And then let's just do it again. So now go manage, and okay, let's go resubscribe and subscribe, continue. And now if I go look in my logs, you can see that it posted to the webhook. And now if I go to my organization and I try to add a new member, let's try it. Okay, Kenny at devlaunch.us. Let's see, and you see that the invitation goes through because it successfully updated our limit. Now, if we were to cancel, then it would again not allow us to add more members. You get the idea. Okay, so that is pretty cool. And honestly, with that said, that's going to wrap up everything that I wanted to show you. In this video, we handled pricing, we handled permissions, we handled different member roles, we handled billing, we handled organization, we handled signing in, signing out, webhooks, front end, back end. A lot of things went into this project, and all of the code for this project will be available from the link in the description in case you missed anything or you want to copy anything directly. Overall, the major thing here is that using Clerk and some of the features that I showed you and there's a lot more that you can use, you can build a full B2B SaaS that allows you to collect money and handle all of the complex organization roles and permissions without having to write all of the code manually. So if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.